Welcome to the AEW Match Guide podcast, where we deep dive into the best matches in AEW history. Brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network and your host, Sam Brown. Hello and welcome to the AEW Match Guide on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. I'm your host, Sam Brown. Thank you so much for joining us, and I hope you're doing well today. And welcome back to the Greatest AEW Male Wrestler Knockout, where we're looking to crown who is the greatest male AEW singles wrestler in the promotion's history. It was great to have people along last week. It was great to be back podcasting. In case you missed it, last week was myself and what I'm going to call like the AEW Brains Trust on the Social Suplex. We've got Floyd from All Things Elite and Imp from Imp's AEW Adventures. We embarked on a quest to find out who is the greatest male AEW singles wrestler of the promotion's history. And to do so, we drew up a giant 64-man bracket. Last week, we went through the seeds for it and decided on the first round matchups. It ended up being a bit of a marathon, a bit of a Lord of the Rings epic, as Imp and I call it. But tonight, we have more great matchups for you. We've got the second and third round. I believe they call that the Sweet 16 in America. But we're really getting down to the nitty-gritty. And if you listened to last week and you thought we agreed on too many, then buckle up, guys, because tonight, as it narrows down, we're going to get into some big differences of opinions, I'm going to suggest. But before we get into it all, I'd like to just welcome my co-host for tonight to the dance. Floyd, how are you going today, mate?
I am doing great. I have one goal, get rid of Hangman Page. I don't care who wins after that.
Yep, you've been needling me all week in the chat, in the text messages. We're gonna go for it. We're gonna go head to head. And Imp, you're gonna have to be the sane one. How does that feel?
I don't like that. I'm not the sane one. I'm the giggly guy. I'm the one who has to go into my edit and cut out giggles because I've just done a giggle. That's too many giggles. that doesn't flow right. That's my vibe. That's what I am.
We love a bit of a giggle here, and I'm sure we'll have some throughout the night. They won't be all butting heads. There'll be some beautiful moments of union, but there'll also be some times where we're at each other. In case you missed last week, I'll then before we get into things, let's go through the criteria. And also if you do want to view the brackets, they are up on the Social Suplex Discord in the AEW Match Guide thread. If you're not a member of the Discord, there'll be a link for that in the show notes, in the description. It's a really great place to chat wrestling just generally. I've been a lot more active in it over the last few weeks. I had a bit of a pause from watching and consuming wrestling content for a little bit, but I've been back in there. It's been great to have a chat, great to catch up with people, great to get back into the discourse. And you can find the brackets for this tournament in the AEW Match Guide thread. Let us know what you think of our arguments that we're putting forward for these wrestlers. Let us know what you think, where you think we may have gone wrong, or where you agreed with us. I know last week we had probably the biggest of the blow-ups, I think, was I'm going to say Miro and Roosh. That was probably the biggest of the disagreements we had. And I'm curious where people in the Social Suplex Network side with us. So, if you had to listen to that podcast, jump in there and let us know where you thought and what you thought of those particular arguments.
I was particularly proud of getting Ray Phoenix past Bandito.
Yeah, that was a good one too. Yeah, correct. I think you actually ended up arguing me across to that one, I believe. So that was interesting. I went in having seeded Bandito higher than Ray Phoenix. And I think you did the same thing with Sammy Guevara. So so far you've been using those persuasion skills. I'm going to tell you, you're going to have to, if we're talking Dungeons and Dragons style, you're going to have to roll a 20 to get me to agree with you on Hangman Page past Brody King. I'm telling you that right now. That's going to take some effort, mate.
Dude, I consider myself pretty able to make a good argument, but I don't have much on that one.
Okay. Before we get into the brackets, guys, because we do have, as I said, we're going through 2 rounds tonight, so we're going to have to be snappy. The criteria that we've put out, it is individual singles performances. So tag teams are only to be used as a tiebreaker. If you can't separate it otherwise, tag teams can be included, tag team performance, but we're mostly looking at singles performances because that is male singles is the majority of what happens in AEW. It's one of the major, has been historically the major focus of the promotion. It's not to say that we don't appreciate the women, we don't appreciate the tag team scenes. We love those, but just to narrow things down, we're looking at individual singles performances, and we are talking about performances in matches, stories, and promos. We're talking business performance. Have they moved metrics? Have they drawn viewers, sold pay-per-views, sold tickets? We're looking at consistency. We're looking at peak. We're judging on historical importance, and that can be positive or negative, so that can be a plus or a minus to you. And we are also talking vibes, just general vibes and personal feelings can also go into it. But we are looking to, as we move forward, we're looking to crowd something that's somewhat objective. So we'll see how we go. And as I said, we'll be posting the brackets on the Social Suplex Podcast Network Discord if you want to catch up and see how they progress in there as well. Imp, you ready?
I'm ready. Oh, no, take two. I'm ready.
You are not ready. That is a man who is definitely not ready. Take a sip of that cup of tea, Imp. We're getting started. And as we did last week, when we've got particularly one-sided, we'll go through things and we'll take a vote 1-2 or 3-0 or 2-1. In ones that are very obvious, we'll focus mostly on the person who's not going to progress. And I think the first round we will have one of those. The first matchup of round 2, we've got the top seed Jon Moxley against the 33rd seed Rey Fenix. I don't think we've got any takers on Rey Fenix over Jon Moxley, although Rey Fenix does hold a victory over Jon Moxley in their international championship title match, correct, at Grand Slam in 2023, I believe.
Yes, Jon Moxley, I believe, accidentally knocked himself out. So Rey Fenix won.
Still counts.
Still counts.
I think that match holds a designation of being the only time an audible's being called. Well, it's probably not the only time, but it's one of the very few times that we know of an audible being called in the middle of a match. In that, I think there was also Ricky Starks got knocked out when he was against Top Flight. And I think they called an audible in that match as well to change the who the finish was and what the result was. So yeah, interesting little quirk there for the Moxley Rey Fenix match.
Speaking of Ricky Starks, he also had a quote unquote stinger against FTR, and that match got thrown out. I wonder, but he was walking around just fine like 10 minutes later.
Yeah.
So shocking.
These terrible things keep happening to this man. It's crazy.
So shocking.
It's never happened to Ricky Saints though. He's like strangely never had that happen to him.
Yes.
Because as we know, they trained them so well in NXT that they're just so good. He's never going to be in danger.
Yeah, no one will ever get hurt if they just follow the NXT way.
Yeah. Look, I gather by where the conversation has gone that we're not really interested in giving any votes to Rey Fenix.
Dude, I am one of the biggest in-ring Rey Fenix fans you'll find, but yeah, you're going up against Jon Moxley. I don't have. You're going to have to. It's going to be down to like the last 4 before I have any arguments against Jon Moxley.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. Look, Rey Fenix, will bid him adieu. He did get past Bandito last week. We had a great discussion around his time in AEW, particularly his time as a singles wrestler. Had some great singles matches with Kenny Omega in 2021, Penta, his brother, and then, Dante Martin as well, Will Ospreay, Nick Jackson, and as we said, probably the highlight of everything would be winning the international championship at Grand Slam in 2023. But it's not enough to get past the top seed. So Jon Moxley goes on to our next one. This is one that I think will be an interesting discussion. We've got number 16, and two guys who are really prominent right now as well. We've got the 16th seed, the current IWGP Heavyweight Champion, Konosuke Takeshita, against seed 17, and the current contender for the AEW Heavyweight Championship, Samoa Joe. Now, I originally ranked these guys. I seeded them. I seeded Konosuke Takeshita 16, 17 Samoa Joe. So I'm sort of tipping my hand there as to which way I'm going. But what do you gentlemen think?
I was wondering if this was like the first two we've done where they have both risen since you made this list in like the very short time
100%.
since you did it. Like Takeshita literally yesterday became the IWGP Heavyweight Champion for 1 week. To date it again, I keep dating these recordings. Samoa Joe, the number one contender for Wrestle Dream. Like both of them are suddenly World Championship relevant, like major feature parts of AEW production and programming. That's before we've even got into like their actual work. It's just since you even made this list just a few weeks ago, their stocks have risen even more, making this even more difficult.
Indeed. What way are you leaning in? Can you give us a hint?
Oh, I'm going back and forth because the absolute quality of Konosuke Takeshita's matches, for me, far jumps over Samoa Joe. But Samoa Joe's, I guess, character achievements, if I'm doing it in the pro wrestling, the top 100 kind of style, his actual achievements and character work, I feel like, is far better than Takeshita. So, personally, I really don't know, just because Samoa Joe's work as AEW champion and TNT champion was exceptional for both. And I feel like I can't forget Samoa Joe's part in Swerve and Hangman. Like just that period going through that Revolution pay-per-view, that was so good. And he also kind of saved he saved both the TNT championship after that whole weird Scorpio Sky, Sammy Guevara, Wardlow era. And then he and Darby Allin kind of saved the TNT title to make it then hand it over to Christian Cage for his amazing run. But then the AEW Championship as well, after what happened with the MJF run, he then hands it over into the Swerve era. Like he saved both titles. That's really important.
Yeah,
like absolute
Continue.
I was going to say, but the absolute quality of Takeshita's matches is absolutely absurd. He is so good. He's the one whose matches I'll go back to. I won't really go back to Joe's matches, but I will go back to Takeshita's matches because they are my style of wrestling. I absolutely adore them.
Yeah, see, I originally was thinking the reason that I had Takeshita nudging ahead was that the match quality, like the match with Ospreay, the matches with Omega, the match with Hangman Page really early on, just on another level, like the absolute highest level of wrestling you can get. But then, as you've said, like Samoa Joe's historical importance on a positive way is so huge. Like, arguably, that is a man that saved the first All In from happening by like convincing CM Punk to come out and have a match. The historical importance for that in a positive manner cannot be underestimated. And he has had some sneaky great matches. Like he had a great match with Minoru Suzuki when he was really early in the promotion. And he has also had those TNT title matches with Darby Allin. He doesn't move quite the way that, you'd like, quite the way that Konosuke Takeshita moves or quite the way that he could move in the past. But the aura that Samoa Joe carries and the way that he holds himself is like it's on display right at the moment with how he's presenting himself against Hangman Page. He's immediately credible whenever he just walks down the road, down the aisle. Floyd, what are you heading? What are your thoughts on this one?
So, if you happen to listen to All Things Elite, you will know my favorite singles wrestler in AEW currently is the new IWGP World Champion Konosuke Takeshita.
I should just add, we've mentioned that championship. This is AEW performance, so it's nice that he's a champion, but that shouldn't count towards this bracket. Okay. Anyway, continue.
So, one of my favorite matches of all time in AEW is Konosuke Takeshita versus Will Ospreay at Revolution, the one where Sting retires. I just thought that match I think it was Ospreay's first match, like full match, like his debut technically in the company. And I thought it was one of the best matches I've ever seen. I say that to say, if this was 100% in ring, I think Konosuke Takeshita dog walks Samoa Joe.
Mm.
But when you take in everything else, I think Samoa Joe dog walks Konosuke Takeshita. He elevates every rivalry that he's in. Every promo that he cuts is generally the best promo of the night. He has established himself as something that is needed in AEW, like one of the boss to show people's to show people coming along their elevation in AEW is if you can beat or hang with Samoa Joe. So I do think, as far as the cog that is AEW, and I am sorry about that phone ringing, as far as the cog that is AEW, Samoa Joe, I would have going over to Konosuke Takeshita at this point in time. Because you think of the Ops, you think of the TBS title run, you think of the World title run, you think of even the fights they did the match with Hook, and it was just like Hook's first big singles matches were against Samoa Joe, and it got a lot of people that were kind of on the fence about Hook. They were like, okay, I can see it in the future, and then he was hanging with him in the Ops, and while some people might have been done with Hook, you saw just Hook being next to him made him seem tougher, So I just think as far as AEW, the characters, stability, everything, it's Samoa Joe all the way that has to go. And like I said, that is me saying that. Also in the same saying Konosuke Takeshita is my favorite in-ring performer in AEW.
Oh man, I'm so torn on this one. I'm very torn. I keep thinking I'm going to go one way, and then I think about the other positives of the other person and go the other way. But you know what? The thing that's clinching it for me, and I think I'm going to side with you, Floyd, on this one. The thing that clinches it for me is how Joe, the positive historical influence that Joe was, particularly the end of 2023. When AEW was like way off the rails. It was off in the woods with some of the creative, particularly in the most important part of the card, which is in the world title scene. It was absolutely off with the fairies in a place where, at least for myself and many other fans, just did not recognize it and did not want to have a bar of what was going on. He took that belt. He had and immediately gave it the legitimacy and the feel that it needed to have and that people wanted from this, that this is a prestigious title and in its own right, without having any bells and whistles and brochachos and devils and whodunit stories attached to it. Doesn't need that. It's the championship. That is the most important thing in the company. Who is the champion? He took it back to that and was then instrumental in passing it on to Swerve Strickland, who was the heir apparent at the time. And for that particular stretch, the positive and also the plus of like he saved, AEW's biggest pay-per-view of all time from, the disaster of CM Punk not showing up. Because it was bad enough that CM Punk dominated the headlines, but can you imagine what it would have been like if he no-showed and, being able to talk him out, pretty much drag him out there in a headlock and say, no, you're not going to screw this up for me. And not screw it up for this company, importantly, in terms of historical importance. He gets it for me by a hair's breadth because, man, like Takeshita versus Ospreay, Takeshita versus Omega, it's the quality that this man has put out is Takeshita versus Eddie Kingston. The quality is insane. Any Joe's going through, but any thoughts on it just before we sign off on this?
I think we're 3-0 on this. I think we're all in agreement. Which is, back of the line to Kester. Get out of here.
Dude, I want to add.
To New Japan with you.
If we do this at the 10-year mark, it's probably completely different. But
maybe.
As of 2025, which is the year we're doing this, I gotta go with Joe. And it hurts. It hurts to get rid of Takeshita for me. But it's just like I'm trying to be as unbiased as possible with certain people, except certain people.
So Samoa Joe goes through to face Jon Moxley in the Sweet 16. That will be an interesting matchup. Two big tough guys. But moving along, we've got seed number 8, Will Ospreay, against seed number 25, the natural Dustin Rhodes. Oh, this is sad. I don't want to do this to you, Dustin. I love Dustin Rhodes. He has been such a trooper for AEW, but I can't put him above Will Ospreay.
I mean, I'm English, so you know my answer. Obviously.
I gotta say this. Okay. Will Ospreay has not been with the company as long, and you're talking about a door opener as far as Dustin Rhodes. And he helped open it with one of the 5-star matches. We've talked about how definitive that match with Cody was. Then you have the big moment at this year's All In with winning the TNT title. I mean, I thought it was dumb at the time, but he put over Kyle Fletcher in such an important way as Carlos established himself as the TNT title. He has always stepped up. When Cody had the interim title, he stepped up, had a great match with Sammy. Him and QT is the natural nightmares. I know, like I said, I know it's not tag team, but he did something there. I just think when you talk about importance to the company, I do think he does beat Will Ospreay by a significant margin in that one, because Will Ospreay came after AEW was established. I mean, Dustin's one of the foundations of it. But of course, when someone is so heavily destroys one person in one group, which is the in-ring performances, Will Ospreay feels like has a 5-star match every other month. You let that person go on. But before we got rid of Dustin, I did want to say he is important. He's just going up against the wrong guy right now.
Oh, I absolutely do not disagree with you there, Floyd. I would Will Ospreay has had probably better matches, but he has not had a match more important than Dustin Rhodes has had in AEW, to be honest. And Dustin has been the consummate professional. He is, for a veteran as well, he has never overstayed his welcome. He's always been happy to do business the right way. He's got out of the way when it's been time for other people to take the lead, and then just chimed in when he's needed to. And whenever he has chimed in, he has done it perfectly. What you're talking about with the TNT title, something that he wasn't scheduled to do or wasn't lined up to do until the day of the show, pretty much, for all we know. Maybe the day before he found out that this was going to be something that he would do, and he could not have done it better. So, yeah, absolutely. Hats off to Dustin Rhodes. Really important historically when we're talking about it, but keep your powder dry, Floyd, because next round when Will Ospreay takes on someone else, if you're looking ahead, we may have a very similar discussion, but maybe even a little bit more close. Is there anything lastly you'd like to say about Dustin Rhodes before we put Ospreay through?
I think most of my points would be about Ospreay, so I'll save that for the next round. I've not really got anything else to add about Dustin. We talked about it last week, really. Just that match with Cody and what that meant for the company. Yeah.
I think the other thing I'd just add as well, you mentioned in-ring, which is obvious when you're talking about Ospreay, but I think business performance, Ospreay has been important for the company in terms of creating the kind of buzz that they've had towards All In this year particularly. And also, I don't know, his longevity in the company, and we'll probably get more into this around next round, but I think you're underestimating his longevity in the company when you look back at, the forbidden doors that have happened and the times that he has popped into the company, even when he hasn't necessarily been signed directly by AEW. But I'm sure that will be a good discussion to have in the next round when we take on the winner of the next one, which is number 9, Cody Rhodes, against number 24, Daniel Garcia.
I feel like this is a Moxley
we've got to be an open and shut one.
Yeah, I feel like this is a Moxley one. I'm like, Daniel Garcia barely got to this round for me, so.
Yeah.
Well, it was that whole discussion last time between him and Hook. Yeah.
Yeah, great matches with Danielson. He's had, good programs, but been up, and I think it's fair to say he's been pretty up and down against, when you're talking historical importance for AEW. there's very few people. There's a few, but there's very few people that are on the level of Cody Rhodes for historical importance towards AEW, and even just matches and performance and stuff. I think we're talking Cody Rhodes through on just about every metric. Anyone want to say anything about Garcia before we bid him adieu?
He's still young. He might find his footing now. He's been with the Death Riders, but I remember when I think we talked about it last week, where I was basically just saying that he is at the exact same place he was when the Blackpool Combat Club formed, though. So he's not really moved in quite a long amount of time. So hopefully one day maybe this is the avenue for him to figure it out. They are bubbling a feud with Wheeler Yuta, so they've got an idea for him joining, which is always good. But we've seen it before. We swore there was an idea bubbling when he joined the Jericho, and there was nothing. So,
back in 2022.
I was so optimistic, so naive.
Yeah. Floyd, anything to say about Garcia? Any memories?
My memory of Garcia is what you said about him being kind of in his start and stop. And it was like, oh, he's going to turn on Jericho, and that's going to make him the guy. Oh, he's going to do this, and that's going to make him the guy. Oh, he's going to beat MJF, and that's going to make him the guy. And it's just like, I don't think even the fans are ready for him to be the guy yet. So I do think this Death Rider situation is a perfect place for him right now, because like I said, you gotta be elevated when everyone's ready for you to be elevated, when the fans are ready to get behind you. And I don't think they were at the time. He had his little dance thing and everything, but I think he again, a few years from now, we have this conversation, might be closer. But at this point in time, he's got some work to do.
Indeed. The only thing I'd mention is he's had great C2 runs as well, things that we didn't mention. But let's move along. We're getting a lot of, pretty quick rounds off to start with, which is, I think that's going to continue, even though, we've got two guys here in the next round. They're both part of the pillars of AEW, but I don't think they could be more further separated in terms of the four pillars. We've got the fourth seed, MJF, against number 36, Sammy Guevara. Man, I'm sorry, Sammy. You convinced me, Floyd, last week that he should go over Wheeler Yuta, but have you got anything for him to go over MJF today?
I will say this about Sammy. I think this is closer than you think, but, when you have to measure where they ultimately are now, and MJF is clearly in the main event. He is always, you can't think of a feud that MJF hasn't been in that hasn't, hit. It's very few and far between. Sammy...
I can think of some very, very prominent feuds MJF has been in that have not hit on a big way.
So, Sammy,
we'll talk about them when we get further into
Sammy, I think he's back in a position. He plays the swarmy person you want to punch in the face heel amazingly. He did it in the inner circle. He's done it in a lot of different places. Fortunately, I do think he had a time where I truly believe the fan base wanted him to be champion. But I personally believe, people might argue with me, I feel like a personal decision he made in his life kind of screwed him and made the fan base turn on him. So it is unfortunate, because I do think he's super important to the history of AEW. I think he's putting on amazing matches. I think how he shows up in the stadium stampedes and the blood and guts, I think all of that matters, but it's MJF. It's MJF. I can't make this argument. I'm not good enough.
I think even though Sammy was an important part of the first few years of AEW, I think he's just someone that they can just cut adrift. Really,
everything he's negative about him.
He's not serving a purpose.
Yeah.
That they've got other wrestlers who are better than him at what he does and have not got the toxicity around him that he does. I don't know, even for someone who loves AEW like myself, and I've never loved Sammy Guevara, and I'm not a super fan of high flying wrestling, but even I can see if I wanted to see high flyers, he's not on the list of the top 5 high flyers in AEW that I want to see. He's definitely not on the list of like best promos. There's just nothing that he does that you can't put someone else that they've already got on the roster into, and you don't have the toxicity and the history and the baggage that comes with Sammy Guevara. Even if you do want to say put him as a heel because, there's big portions of the fan base that will just never warm to him. I think, I don't know, if I was Tony Khan, I'd just be saying, look, sorry, mate, like we don't need you anymore. We don't have space for you anymore. You're not going to be on TV anymore.
Sam is, want someone to get fired here. Dang, that's not what this tournament is about, bro. You were making the argument. You're not making the argument of MJF over Sammy. You're making the argument of whether Sammy should have a job or not. That's kind of messed up.
He's historically important. He is historically important, but I don't think he serves any current purpose.
Throw him right in the bin.
AEW.
That's how it goes, right? Throw him right in the bin. That's how the UK people say it.
I'm not being as harsh as Sam, but the man can have a job. But still, he is with the Ring of Honor stuff with Le Faction Ingobernables, that's fine. Where he is as a lad in a stable, he fits that all right. He's elevating Roosh. That's him serving his purpose in a way. His purpose is to get Roosh over. That's all right. That's okay where he is.
And
he was on commentary this week, so I'm assuming Sam wouldn't have been happy. But still, yeah.
Look, when I wrote about a year or so ago on my Substack, I wrote a thing about how to revitalize ROH, and this was before Sammy had a very prominent role in ROH. Actually, no, he was the ROH Tag Team Champion at the time, and I put him down as look, this is a project that you could do in ROH if you wanted. If you really want to give Sammy Guevara another go, then have him have him as the Tag Team Champions, have him turn on Dustin, and from there try and establish him as a singles heel on ROH. But yeah, as I said, I don't think there's much future for him in AEW, unfortunately, even though I acknowledge, as you said, Floyd, this is someone who is very important to the promotion historically and has had a number of very positive influences on the promotion, particularly in his, how he's performed in those matches you mentioned.
Yeah, good. I mean, like I said, a pillar, in name only, really. But, he's fine. Roosh needs a sidekick that speaks English, because Roosh doesn't promo in English very well. So it works out. But, yeah, I mean, he was going to lose here. It was just put some shine on it. But Sam's like, no.
Absolutely
no, fire him. Okay, probably go a bit hard on that, but I don't know. Anyway, look, let's continue moving along. An interesting matchup now. The next one, we've got number 13. So MJF goes through, of course, just to confirm that. But the next one, we've got number 13, Christian Cage against seed number 20, Kazuchika Okada. What a random matchup to have here. If you're looking at their career in total, it's even weirder, I feel like, almost. I know who I'd vote for then very clearly, but it's a very interesting thing. But just even looking at their sum total of what they've contributed to AEW, Christian Cage and Kazuchika Okada, Imp, where are you leaning initially?
It's an odd one because Okada's had some real highlights in AEW. And especially in terms of him coming into that trio with Ospreay and Mercedes, that AEW getting those three names was huge for them. And I feel like since then they've just been going in the right direction, in the correct direction. And he's kind of a huge part of the feeling returning, as the phrase was. But man, Christian Cage's work in AEW was his career best stuff. Sure. I mean, in my mind, I'm surely I can't rank the incredibly high quality matches and the character that I've loved of Okada since he's been there. Do I rank that higher than Christian Cage's TNT title run? The whole dad stuff. I really don't know. I really don't know. I think I'm doing my wrestling logic of in ring it's Okada, but my heart says Christian Cage because I adored that character so much.
Floyd?
I am going to go Christian Cage. Why? Because he is everything you want a veteran to be in your company.
Mm.
When I say that, he was past his prime when he came in. He didn't they did the one match with Kenny Omega. But what his purpose has been, he's been tied with younger people and putting them in better positions. He put Jungle Boy in a better position. Luchasaurus in a better position. Nick Wayne is in a better position. Kip Sabian, they didn't know what the hell to do with him. He got him on TV, and you now hate Kip Sabian because he's what? He has been this perfect mid-show person to go in there and cut a promo, and he's wearing the turtleneck and talking about people's dads and everything he's done, even his heel turn. The big match that he had with Jungle Boy, where I believe he got buried or whatever. It is everything he has done is just he's such a positive to the company. When you bring a veteran in the company, you show them Christian Cage and say, be that. And that is going to ring longer in AEW, unfortunately, than what Okada has done.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying there, Floyd. And when I'm thinking about this, I think the only reason that I'm hesitating is because it's Okada. It's just Okada. How can you get rid of him in the second round? It's Okada. But we're talking about AEW here, and in reality, Okada has not been around for as long as Christian Cage, and in the time he has been around, you mentioned the Mercedes, Ospreay, and Okada arrival, he hasn't had the same level of impact, I don't think, and certainly has not had the same unanimously positive approval that particularly Ospreay's had, and particularly, initially I think with Mercedes there was some teething issues initially, but she has well and truly established herself in the company as this is who Mercedes Moné is in AEW. This is what she does. These are the feuds that she's had that have been amazing. These are the people she's elevated so far, and she's kind of brought to the forefront as well. Whereas with Okada, he's really been up and down. He has been lazy, flat out lazy in some instances. And yeah, he has not been able to establish himself separate from who he was in New Japan. I don't feel like, at least initially, since he arrived. And part of it is the reason they got him is because they want New Japan's Kazuchika Okada. Why? What's there to improve on the New Japan's Kazuchika Okada? And he has added some sort of comedy and a little bit to it, but the stuff with the Elite last year didn't really hit as the way it should. It kind of got confusing. They've probably got him in the right situation now in the Don Callis family, and this tension that he's got with Takeshita. But comparing it to Christian Cage, Christian Cage has been such a highlight. Every time they would find out someone who he's feuding with has anything to do with their dad, there'd be just memes popping off everywhere. I remember when someone's father died in I can't remember who it was, but someone's father died, and people were with glee just posting pictures of Christian Cage being this man will be feuding with him soon. And you're right how he is being used to really bring other wrestlers up. You can argue what's happened with Jack Perry since he left Christian Cage, but it almost speaks more highly for how good Christian Cage was with him, that, he sort of, this with how the scapegoat run ended up going, when he was with Christian Cage, things were looking amazing for his future. He leaves from feuding with Christian and sort of doesn't hit the same anymore. So that almost speaks more positively for how good Christian Cage was with him. So, yeah, look, I agree. It looks like we're putting Christian Cage through to the next round.
I do have what I find a hilarious anecdote is that we wanted Okada in AEW so we wouldn't get American Okada in WWE, and we have absolutely gotten American Okada in AEW.
Yep. Yeah, it's true.
He's pretty much everything most people didn't want him to be. Like, don't go to WWE because you're just going to be flipping people off and saying, bitch. That's what you're going to do if you go to WWE. Oh, that's kind of what he's doing in AEW. So it's kind of hilarious. But he does have that. When he cares, he has a match. He has matches that he wouldn't have ever had in WWE.
Yeah.
Since the Omega match, like every pay-per-view he's had, it's only been 2, hasn't it? But they're both really good. Like ever since, he's on a really good streak right now. That first year was almost like primarily character work, which is not what we were expecting from Okada.
Yeah, you're right with that. Like when he's wanted to, because here I am chucking slander at him, but when he's wanted to, he has been fantastic. Like I think of the one that immediately comes to mind for me is the Ospreay match in the C2 final was just, it was everything you want. That is why you get Kazuchika Okada into AEW. But, not enough to knock off Christian Cage and the level and consistency of his performance that he has provided through his time with the company. So let's move along. Christian Cage progresses to go up against. We've got the two absolute rat bags, totally unjustifiable douchebags of AEW in the next round, MJF and Christian Cage. To go up against each other. That'll be a fun little one. And we're going against... moving along to the next one.
You could stay the same for the next match.
Yes, the 5th seed, Chris Jericho, against the 37th seed, who should not have been in this round, but I got outvoted, with Miro. You guys want to try and push Miro through to the next round again against Chris Jericho? I've got some arguments.
Nope, not at all. Chris Jericho is it.
I think we said all that needed to be said and some more about Miro last week. Go to that episode if you want to hear me getting absolutely telling these guys I think they were out to dinner or something at one point because they wanted to put Miro over Roosh. So let's move along to the next one. Chris Jericho goes through. We'll have plenty more to say about him in future rounds. And then we've got, this is my favorite matchup of the round, number 12, Orange Cassidy against number 21, Pac. And the reason it's my favorite is because me and Imp, back in like the 4th episode of the AEW Match Guide, we reviewed their match from Revolution 2020. And I just think it's very neat and it was completely random that these two ended up against each other in this round, but I think it's very neat that they have. So, Imp, I'll let you have first vote in this one, Orange Cassidy or Pac to advance.
I feel like Orange Cassidy's the more important character, and his stuff with Jon Moxley especially really elevated him. Pac has had some absolutely incredible matches, especially early on with the Iron Man. And then you fast forward and there's that match last year against Will Ospreay. Jesus Christ. I went back and watched that match so many times. It was so good. Yes, the only thing that holds Pac back is visa issues. He has such long gaps of not being there. And Orange Cassidy, his character, until obviously the most recent injury, he just had such a rise in AEW to becoming this really important figure within the company. And he's not the main character, but he's a heavily featured character. He's a mainstay in the company. It's crazy that because we were talking about how he would be backstage with Tony Khan and whatnot. So they got that moniker of being Tony Khan's version of The Undertaker. And I just loved that comparison. That Orange Cassidy is AEW. He's actually AEW's Undertaker, which I just absolutely love. There's picturing his stature in the company. I feel like that's a pretty actually good comparison for what Undertaker was in that era of WWF. I feel like Orange Cassidy has that same level of importance to the company. But I'm putting Orange Cassidy over Pac to go against my same countryman. I just think he is more important to AEW than Pac is, unfortunately.
I'm going to save my Orange Cassidy stuff for the next round because I think it's pretty unanimous that he's going on. But I do got some good stuff for the next round. Just don't want to, waste it now.
Yep, all good. I think Pac, man, it's easy to forget in 2019 how high up he was on the card. This is a guy who got wins over he got a draw with John Moxley, wins over Omega and Hangman Page. Like, you think about how protected those three guys are in the history of AEW. He's probably one of the, I don't know, there's probably like maybe one or two other people, I haven't done the math, who've got wins over all three of those people.
Yeah.
In fact, there might not be anyone who's got a wins over Omega and Hangman and a draw with John Moxley. There might not be anyone else.
And the most important, they were clean. They were clean wins. He just beat them.
Yeah. Yep. And it's easy to forget how highly he was positioned because since COVID really, and he spent a whole lot of time on the shelf during COVID for good reason. He lives in England. International travel was off the cards. There's whole lots of good reasons, but unfortunately it meant that by the time he got back, he was sort of shuffled down the card, and he really hasn't, while he has had good matches, he really hasn't had anything resembling any kind of in-depth storyline or any real proper flirtations with the main event beyond just being thrown in there as a challenger, in the three-way with Orange Cassidy, Kenny Omega, and Pac, or a challenger for Okada, or a challenger for whoever happens to need a challenger. He's immediately someone you can plug in, but he just, if things had played out differently, maybe this would go another way. But Orange Cassidy's importance to the company is so much higher, really.
Really. And I did forget one thing. I wanted to shout out his 30-minute Iron Man match in Kansas City, Pac and Kenny Omega. That was early on my favorite Dynamite match. It's probably still in my top 5 Dynamite matches of all time, which is such a good match. And it was like Pac was one of those people that it was like he would come from WWE. He was a junior. He was Mighty Mouse. He was all that thing. And then he came to AEW, and he's a wrestler on the same status of everybody, everybody else. They don't think of him as a little guy. So he's been that respect level that has come with being Pac. And he's, like I said, he's very important. Key to the cog that what would end up being AEW, because you kind of needed a strong heel because the AEW was such a, rah, let's go get the WWE. You needed strong heels in the early part. And he was a heel, but he was this kind of heel that he didn't really cheat. He just won. So, yeah, he was definitely important. It's just who he's going up against. Like when you said Tony Khan's Undertaker, I can't think of a better way to say it, because he was this gimmick that I didn't get at first, Tony Khan didn't get at first, that has really become like one of the heartbeats of AEW.
Indeed. And you just mentioned with the Pac Omega thing, that was another match that was reviewed very, very early on the AEW Match Guide podcast, me with Rich Latta, if you want to go back and listen to that one. We reviewed that Iron Man match, really dug deeply into it. And yeah, the last thing I would say about Pac, oh shit, my mind's gone blank.
I can jump in.
And my mind's gone completely blank.
I've got something to say about Pac, so I guess if I keep talking, then you might find it.
We'll find it.
I just want to shout out his promos, because my God, he comes up with some of the most original names of things. A lot of them are like English phrases and things. I remember seeing all the reactions to him going, Billy Big Bollocks. It's just really made me laugh. Even this week, he returns, and the first thing he says in a promo is "Oi oi oi tangerine ball." Was it "Oi oi oi tangerine bollocks" or something like that? It's just like first thing out of his mouth. It's like, oh, it's good to have him back.
Oh, here's my point. I remembered him. Historical importance for Pac, and I just completely escaped my mind until just now. He's got a pay-per-view named after him. The whole thing with Full Gear was him versus Page, and everyone was giving Page shit because Pac rocked up in Full Gear at the original press conference, and now they've called the thing Full Gear. They've called a pay-per-view. Probably one of the big 4 pay-per-views for AEW is called Full Gear, which Pac had a 50% hand in getting named. So historically important. It'll always resonate with the OGs, if you know sort of crew. But let's move on. Yeah, Orange Cassidy progresses through. And get ready to bust out your mimosas because we've got Chris Jericho and Orange Cassidy meeting in Sweet 16 next round. So that'll be fun. But moving along, Floyd, it's the battle you've been waiting for. We've got Hangman Adam Page, the number 2 seed versus the number 31 seed, Brody King.
See, Brody King, let me tell you all the advantages of Brody King. Dude, one of the coolest epic moments of AEW's history is that first time he did it where he choked out Darby and just dropped him, and that's how he eliminated him from the Battle Royal. That was so cool. And Brody King, so versatile. He's, he made it hard to hate Malachi Black, which is, pretty cool because, it's like Brody King's with him, and then it's like Julia Hart talks about all the confidence she got from Brody King. Of course, the abolished ice shirt, but honestly, he's like, he rolls in that area in that Tomohiro Ishii style for AEW. You can put him in any position, he's gonna put on a banger of a match. It's not whether it's going to be a good match or not. It's not. It's not a question with Brody King. Whether you plug him in, he doesn't. He has no ego about any of it as far as losing and all that kind of stuff to much smaller people. So I do think he's an important cog in what AEW does. And he's straight edge, so he doesn't drink at work like some cowboy that used to have a drinking problem on screen. I'm just saying, he's a positive role model for your kids.
Never burned anyone's house down.
Never burned anyone's house down. I mean, he just shows up to your house and he doesn't even have to rob you. He shows up to your house, you just give him shit, and you're like, please no. But no, seriously, I would love...
If only he was against, before you get into this seriously, but if only he was against someone who didn't have a number of memorable hanging spots.
Yes.
Hangman Adam Page.
Yes. And I even said it. I was like, dude, if they're doing this Hangman run, Brody King would be a great challenger for the world title.
100%.
World title. And no, but it's just like... Yeah, it's just like, when it's David and Goliath, in 99% of time, Brody King is absolutely Goliath. But in this one, he's old Davey boy. He's not going to, and it's going to go how most of these goes. David's not winning that fight most of the time.
I think you put it well last week when you said Brody King has got AEW's version of Yeet with the barks.
Yes.
Like, it's just something that the crowd wants to do. And I can attest, like when I was in at Grand Slam earlier this year, when Brody King was there, you just wanted to do the like, it's so fun. You just want to do it.
Yeah, even when he was like, oh, terrible bad guy, people were still barking.
Any thoughts on Mr. King?
I like how Sam was out to get a man fired and Floyd's here to get a man hired. He's pushing Brody like the top guy. He does actually scream the kind of personality that Tony Khan likes at the top of his card. So and Tomohiro Ishii for me is an absolutely perfect comparison. It feels like he's got like the mainstay of a Ishii type as well. So he could be with AEW for a really long time. So there's been an interesting conversation to have in like the 10 years that Floyd was talking about earlier. But yeah, I feel like I'm just echoing Floyd pretty much. But to me, he screams the type of guy that Tony Khan likes to have at the top of his card. So maybe when we're talking about him later, we might be talking about him as not just a Ishii type, but in a company where an Ishii type might actually get pushed quite well.
I would love to see Brody King at the top of the card. That would be incredible. He is 38 years old though, so get onto it, TK. Get onto it. Maybe have him hang the Hangman over the rope. I think I suggested that last week. That would be fantastic. Let's move along though. Hangman Adam Page moves through to the next part of the bracket, and to face him, we will have either the 15th seed Adam Cole or the 18th seed Kyle Fletcher. I feel like this one, they're seated closely, and I feel like this is a close one. This is one where I can see myself getting convinced either way. Floyd, I'll let you go first. Adam Cole or Kyle Fletcher? Who's your side?
So the whole Devil debacle is a major negative towards Adam Cole. Unfortunately, I'm using this in the arguments. This is not going at him. He's kind of a frail person. He gets hurt a lot, and what, you like, why would you bring that up? Because his hurt, like this major storyline that they were building up to gets destroyed because he literally jumps off of a ramp and destroys, just his ankle blows up, right? Then this year, that was a huge thing. Then this year, we're building up to Kyle Fletcher being basically now, inaugurated as TNT champion by having this big win over Adam Cole. Guess who can't wrestle again? I mean, when you're playing the measurement and comparison game, it does get mean sometimes, as Sam proved earlier. It does get mean sometimes. So maybe it's coming off mean. But Kyle Fletcher is not only the future, he is the current. And just think of the banger matches he's put on with Will Ospreay, and the banger matches he's basically put on with everybody in the roster as he was losing to everyone coming up. It's just like he was a diamond in the rough. He is a full-fledged diamond now. I can't pick. I know Adam Cole was in the main event of one of the biggest shows in wrestling history, but how did people receive that main event? That storyline, the Brochachos almost killed like most of the fan engagement. Again, you have to take that away. There's just too many negatives on the side, and there is none for Kyle Fletcher. So I'm going Kyle Fletcher.
Oh, Imp.
I feel like I wanted to like Adam Cole's run in AEW more than I actually did, and I commend Tony Khan for presenting him as a main eventer, because that is how I want to see Adam Cole getting pitched, especially if I remember the time when he was making that decision between staying in WWE or going to AEW. And it seemed like WWE's offer was, we'll make you a manager, like they did with LA Knight when he came up as like the MXM's manager. And it was like, what are you doing? type of thing. It seemed like Adam Cole was destined for that. To then see him presented as a main eventer when he arrived in AEW, that felt great. However, I think his best work was not in AEW, unfortunately for this assessment. So like my take on him as a wrestler, I did rate him like very highly, but not in AEW. I never really clicked with his work in AEW, unfortunately. And including like the mixed tag matches and things where they like, there's a lot of stuff where I just didn't really click with it. And finally, when I did click with it with his recent TNT title run, it gets like a proper injury, which this could be it level of things. So it's a very weird assessment. Whilst Kyle Fletcher's, the assessment for him feels just like a curve going straight up. Like everything they've done with him is like he is destined to be an absolutely huge deal for the company, and it's just up and up and up for him. Whilst, yeah, as Floyd was saying, like Adam Cole's is just like all over the place.
I cannot believe I'm doing this. I'm going to...
Against your
how am I the one that is... I've consistently disliked Adam Cole. Kyle Fletcher is Australian. This should not be my position to do, but Adam Cole should win this one. I just... The more I think about it, the more I'm convinced that it should be Adam Cole. Kyle Fletcher has had a good 12 months. He's had a great 12 months, like a really incredible 12 months. The last 12 months have been amongst the greatest rises in talent we've seen in AEW. From where he was let's think about where he was in July last year to where he is today is wild. He has progressed so far, and his trajectory looks incredible. But if we look back at what they've done, and if we look back at the criteria for this, and I can't believe I am arguing for freaking Adam Cole, the most 8 out of 10 wrestler that there has ever been. He is not excel in any regard in wrestling criteria, in performance or anyway. But if we look at performance in matches, stories and promos, business performance, consistency, peak, historical importance, and vibes, I cannot see how we can say that this granted, it is a great 12 months, a great year that Kyle Fletcher has had to this point goes over the top of a guy whose historical importance, like he debuted at the end. He was like one of the cherries on top of the cake of what some people regard to this day as AEW's greatest ever pay-per-view at All Out. He was part of a really good championship feud with Hangman Adam Page, but more importantly, like, and how am I arguing for the freaking brochachos? I hated that act from the start. Let me finish. The brochachos. Oh my God, I hate making this argument because I don't. It's objectively true, but I hated it as it was happening because I hated the stupid skits that he did with MJF. But they were drawing numbers. They were high ranking. They were popping quarters. MJF and Adam Cole were popping quarters because people were connected with that story. And he main evented the biggest wrestling show ever. Ever. That has to count for something. Historical importance in a positive manner. There's very few things, we're going to talk about Cody Rhodes in a second, and he, was a person who was fundamental in creating this, and whatever happens afterwards, you cannot take that away. You can't take that away from Adam Cole. And I hated that match, but the crowd was so into it, and it's divisive, but there are people who are high on it. Now, everyone agrees that the devil stuff afterwards, that was garbage, and that does count for historical influence in a negative sense, but I don't think it outranks being the main event, the ticket-selling main event for the biggest show ever. And those guys they weren't just the main event, they were also in the pre-show because they were doing so well and they wanted everyone to get into their seats for the pre-show, so they put an Adam Cole and MJF match in that pre-show, funnily enough against Kyle Fletcher and Mark Davis, but they were kind of a tertiary to that at that point. They were put into that position because they knew that people would want to see those guys, so it would get everyone in the seats before the main card kicks off, so that when Samoa Joe pulled CM Punk out by the scruff of his neck, they would have a full crowd there. And I just cannot see how, injuries aside, the devil storyline aside, like that historical importance is so much higher than what has been, a really great 12 months, but only 12 months. And whereas Cole has been around for longer, if you go through the matches, he does have good matches there that people have enjoyed, people have liked, probably not on the level of Kyle Fletcher, but when it comes to like stories that he's been involved in, when it comes to, as I said, business performance and historical importance, like I just cannot put him over, cannot put Kyle Fletcher over him, even though every bone in my body doesn't want Adam Cole to go through because I don't like Adam Cole as a wrestler. I never really have. I think he's bang average, but when I'm looking at it from an objective sense, he just has to go through over Kyle Fletcher. Sorry, Floyd. You wanted to jump in there about 5 minutes ago.
Okay, first of all, you talk about him being part of one of the greatest pay-per-views, like all out. What did he do? He just literally showed up. That's it.
He was the cherry on top of the cake.
He just showed up. That's what I'm saying. That's it. He just showed up. Literally, he did nothing to make that the great thing. Second, that's WWE logic saying he was in the main event of that match. Dude, those 80,000 tickets were going to sell whether he was in the main event or if they picked somebody else to lose to MJF. So I don't think he was that important either. The
business performance in the lead up, though, the TV ratings in the lead up showed that people were into that story in a big way.
People were into that story in a big way. People were into MJF in a big way. He carried that thing, and Adam Cole just happened to be the guy.
He was the guy that made MJF, he made him sympathetic to the entire audience. There were some people who liked to cheer MJF because he was a cool heel, but...
I'm saying you could have put OC in that role. You could have put whoever you wanted in that role to play the straight man or funny man to MJF, and it would have done the same thing. I don't think he was important to it. I think it was an MJF storyline that carried Adam Cole.
that's like saying, oh, you could have put any big man in WrestleMania 3 and it would be the same thing. It's not. Like, he was the person that was in it. And as I said, like, it's not just the popularity is not just shown by the fact that they sold those 80,000 tickets. It's that they actually, to put them, to make sure everyone was in their seats, they put them in the pre-show. Like, to make sure everyone's in their seats, because they knew people were going and people wanted to see what was happening in this story. And like, the historically, regardless of business performance in that, like, the historical importance of him being in the main event of that show it is huge.
Again, I will make these same arguments, but for MJF as I'm making them against Adam Cole. Because I think MJF was the thing that made that happen. So, just Adam Cole.
It takes two to dance. Like, that's like, you know, that's like looking at WrestleMania. Another example, like WrestleMania 7, and just being well, Randy Savage carried the Ultimate Warrior, so it's all Randy Savage. Like, no, the Ultimate Warrior had to do his part in that and provide and like gave a great performance. Adam Cole had to do his part in that and gave a great performance in the lead up, in the build, so that people were so invested in that.
Okay, so tell me Adam Cole's other great feuds.
Hangman Adam Page.
Was it a
Jack
great
Perry.
one? It was a great one? I mean, because I can tell you a bunch of MJF other ones, because MJF.
We're not talking about MJF. We're not talking about MJF.
I'm saying
we're talking about Kyle Fletcher.
Yes, MJF's importance makes Adam Cole
MJF is more important than Adam Cole.
He makes
That's
Adam.
the question, though.
That's what I'm saying. Because he's so important, I just feel like Adam Cole is just a carry along. Kyle Fletcher all the way.
Well then we can just discount all of Kyle Fletcher's work with Will Ospreay, because everyone has good matches with Will Ospreay. Correct.
But Kyle Fletcher took this elevated role, and most people wondered if he could even hang. You know, that he took this spotlight that was thrust upon him, like, okay, be the guy. And a lot of people don't stand up and become the guy, and he's
not been the guy, though. He's main evented a single pay-per-view.
Yes.
And that was as someone who everyone knew was going to lose.
Correct. Like I said, Adam Cole to me, there's more negative to Adam Cole that outweighs what he's done good. So that's why I'm going with Kyle Fletcher.
If we were to rate like these things on out of a 10 scale, like historical importance of Kyle Fletcher right now would be like a 2 out of 10.
Correct.
Whereas historical importance of Adam Cole is like an 8 or 9 out of 10. Very fitting that he is an 8 out of 10,
yes,
even in that.
Banger matches, I would put Kyle Fletcher at a 10 out of 10.
Oh, no way is he a 10 out of 10. He's had 12 months, mate.
As a performer? Dude, even when he was losing all the time,
12 months. This is a company that's been around for 6 years.
Even when he was losing all the time, he was killing it.
24 months at best.
Yeah.
Like 2 years at best.
Correct.
Out of 6.
And I'm honestly, if you take all of Adam Cole's injury time, he's probably right around 2 years. He missed a year and a half because of a concussion, and then he missed a whole year because of his ankle. This dude has not been much longer than Kyle Fletcher. If you talk about actual in-ring wrestling, he's not much longer than Kyle Fletcher.
God help me, I'm arguing for Adam Cole. Jump in, where are you at? Obviously, Floyd and I, you said Adam Cole, Kyle Fletcher earlier.
Oh, I did, yeah.
Have I said anything that sways you otherwise? If not, we'll put through Kyle Fletcher and I'll wipe my hands of it.
Things that I at least debated it. I'll say that. It did nudge Adam Cole up for me just because the absolute sheer I guess, importance of being given that role. I guess that's kind of the point Floyd's making, is given that role and then performing in such an incredible way in it are two different things in a way. And that's the whole point of this discussion, is figuring out how we feel about those things. And I feel so strongly about Kyle Fletcher's last 12 months that I genuinely, because I didn't do it for Takeshita, I specifically said, maybe in the future we'll be thinking about it. Who else did I've said it to someone else as well, where it's like, not quite now, but if you ask me in a year maybe, then they're going to go through because they're clearly in that build. But I feel like Cal Fletcher's last 12 months have been so consistently good that I want to break that and make my own like template I've made for myself with people like Fletcher, where they're doing good work. Like Bandido, that was the other one. Where I'm like, they're in the middle of doing their great work. But I feel like his has been so good that I genuinely feel stronger about Fletcher than I do about Adam Cole's whole kind of work for AEW. So unfortunately, we're going to have to put your fellow countryman through, Sam.
Bye-bye, baby.
I'm going to go wash my mouth out after all those nice things I said about Adam Cole.
Hey, but you know what you did? We needed your voice because I do feel more positively about Adam Cole, even though he was out of there.
Okay.
Yeah.
I still think you're both wrong, but anyway. Let's move along. Number 7. This is this is not an easy one either. It's two people that we love. Number 7, Darby Allin versus number 26, Mark Briscoe. Oh man, this is so hard. I'll just go first. I feel like if Mark Briscoe had been around since day one, it would maybe be a different story, but I love both these guys so much. They're both so incredible and they've got like such similar strengths. Maybe Mark Briscoe's a slightly better promo, but Darby Allin's just more important historically because he's been around for longer and because of what he represents in the company. He climbed Mount Everest. I don't know if he's climbed to the top of this, but I think he goes through in this round. Imp, I'll let you go next.
Oh, 100% agree with absolutely everything you said. It's almost like we're deciding between our two crazy boys and which one do we love more. It's like, unfortunately, it's Darby, the wee fire boy. Unfortunately, he has to go through.
I wanted to knock Darby down because he's climbed a stupid mountain and made me have to get stuck with Hangman as the world champion. But, yeah, I mean, this is not really a competition. But shout out to Mark Briscoe for that trilogy with FTR. It was amazing.
Oh, he has been a revelation since he came on. Like, I did not know how he was going to fit in, but since him as a singles wrestler has been incredible. I don't know if he'll ever get to the AEW World Championship. Probably not, but man, even just like a big challenge for him, a big pay-per-view at some point or a run in the C2 where he goes right to the end would be incredible. I'd love to see. I love watching Mark Briscoe. Every time he comes on TV, he is captivating. And yeah, it's a shame he's up against Darby Allin, but Darby Allin will advance. He's the 7th seed for a reason, and that moves us along to the 10th seed, CM Punk versus the 23rd seed, Ricky Starks. We've got the WWE boys in this round, in this little matchup here. The ex-lovers, so to speak. Floyd, which one of these guys goes through, Punk or Starks?
I'm going to say I'm going to vote, but I'm not saying anything positive about either one of them. So CM Punk.
It's if we're going off of historical significance, then that Punk's return is such a huge moment. Because I'm specifically comparing him to Ricky Starks, I feel like that just shoots Punk up regardless. Obviously, it's going to be interesting the further we get in because he's obviously got the biggest negative of anybody in this bracket by far. So I'm assuming that might even do him in the next round, which is going to be interesting. But here, yeah, I've got to put him over Starks.
Yep. I think I agree as well. Like Starks never quite hit it as a full-on main eventer. He had some great moments. I think of like the FTW. I think we said these sorts of things last week when he was against Kyle O'Reilly. Like the strap match with Danielson is like on another level. That is just amazing. It's probably the best match Ricky Starks will ever have. I hope he has better matches, but maybe one day when he gets up against Cody Rhodes or something, he'll have a better match. But that against Danielson was just incredible, absolutely incredible. And the FTW championship, I always think of that segment where he did a defense, he got through it pretty quick, and he was like, I want to have a second shot and the way he carried that, and Hook came out and beat him, and then the way he got up and he said the promo he did, and then Hobbs turned on him. I always remember that segment for just how good it was and how like well constructed it was, and how it set up all three of those guys from Team Taz as this stable just implodes in one segment. That was fantastic work, and it's not been without his negatives. He's had some downs to go with those ups, but look, I think everyone understands why Punk goes through in this instance. And I'll just, for those of you who are playing at home, I'll lay out the future road for Punk. He's up against Darby Allin in the next round, and the winner of that one goes against the winner of Adam Page and Kyle Fletcher. So we may be cruising for a Hangman Adam Page versus CM Punk quarterfinal, which could be an interesting one if he gets past Darby Allin. But let's move along. We've got one that I think will be pretty quick. Number 3, Kenny Omega versus number 35, Lance Archer. I'm pretty sure we put through Omega here, guys. Floyd, any thoughts?
Yeah. Nope. I love Lance Archer. Love Lance Archer. But no, this is not
Yep.
Shout out to Lance, though. Everybody does.
Everyone forgets. So people consider the Texas Deathmatch thing as a Moxley and Hangman thing, but it actually started because of Archer and Moxley at the Tokyo Dome. Then they had an incredible one that everyone forgets about for the IWGP US Championship in 2021. It was the first time that AEW beat Raw in the demo in I think it was in a quarter. The quarter that John Moxley and Lance Archer were wrestling was higher than the Raw that was on at the same time on a Monday night. It's not like a clean thing, but I don't know. I just think that's a nice little thing to give Lance Archer. And it was an incredible match as well. And then he had a match against Hangman later that year in early 2022, which was another incredible Texas death match that Archer had. So props to Archer for putting himself on the line that way. It's Kenny Omega. he's going through. Let's move along. We've got Eddie Kingston versus Jungle Boy Jack Perry. Imp, where are you leaning on this one?
Oh, I think I'm leaning Eddie, but I don't know if that's just because he's just the more lovable one. So you just go, I got to put Eddie through. My heart says Eddie. But Jungle Boy feels like somebody who's incredibly important to AEW since the start. And he's like because they were talking about him possibly being a pillar and things. And that pressure, it didn't help in New Japan. And it's not helping here in AEW either. Just naming these people are the future of the company before you've even properly tested them as such. It was never long-term a good idea. But, and I'm speaking in hindsight, as well, just to sound smart. Obviously, I wasn't saying that at the time. But it's weird. They've both got different reasons to go through. I really don't. I'm saying Eddie, but as I've started to continue to talk, I've kind of did it a bit. Maybe you need to come back to me. I'll hear what you two say.
Okay, Floyd.
This is the one.
I know you hate the everyman. So Eddie Kingston obviously is not someone you're going to vote for. You're gonna vote for the pretty boy Jungle Jack Perry, aren't you?
Well, so let me tell you, I have a Bad News Bears jersey that I bought specifically because Eddie Kingston wore it on the show. I just bought the Eddie Kingston baseball jersey that they have on shopaew.com. So Eddie Kingston reels very, very closely to my heart. He's probably the only version of that everyman character that I actually like. But I dreaded this one. When I looked at the bracket, I dreaded this one because it's one of those things. Importance to the company. The son of Luke Perry. People asked me, going into AEW as we were starting, they would ask me about Luke Perry's son, the wrestler, the Jungle Boy. And, their matches, the waving when we came back from to Double or Nothing in Jacksonville. That's everyone had such an emotional attachment to Jungle Boy. When he turned heel, it was like it was a brokenhearted. It's like, why is it this way? Because he's our Jungle Boy. He's ours when it comes to AEW, and he's put on great matches. But I don't feel like he has that match where you're like, oh, this is the defining moment of it. But they've had great matches, and he's had a great run. And honestly, if this was like Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus as a combined, I don't think it's even close. But Eddie Kingston, dude, again, I talk about sometimes about when AEW does something the other company can't do. Making Eddie Kingston a star is that. He was in Impact. He was in all these other places, and he was always presented as this loudmouth guy. But the company that presented him as a star, that put the Triple Crown on him, that had him beat Bryan Danielson, Jon Moxley, that is Eddie Kingston. So I think truly historical importance. And he's also that thing where generally you can just throw him in the match with Ishii. You could throw him in the match with Minoru Suzuki. You could throw him in that match with Miro where he was selling his neck. And it's like Eddie always delivers. His entrances with Jon Moxley in that match that they had with the Young Bucks, because you said we can use tag teams stuff if it's breaking a tiebreaker. I just think he makes everything to him matter. I think he's the guy that's going to get Hook over and over. I think this time working with Eddie Kingston is going to get Hook over. I got to go with Eddie Kingston. It's barely. If Imp makes a strong enough argument, I will jump on the other side. But I'm going with Eddie Kingston.
It's very clear for me. Eddie Kingston, I think, is miles ahead of Jack Perry. If you're talking performance in matches, stories, and promos, like there is nothing that Jack Perry has done that comes close to Eddie Kingston. When you're talking the debut match and promo where he literally talked and performed his way into the company and into a contract. And props to Cody Rhodes, by the way, for how that's all panned out. And then, the promos against Jon Moxley before their I Quit match where, it's something that people even go back to this day. It's one of the few pandemic things that still gets talked about a little bit, is that promo where Eddie's just so furious at Jon Moxley that he can't even face him because he knows that if he faces him, he'll chin him and he'll get disqualified from that match. And then how good that match was as well. It's a match that has aged like fine wine. Fast forward a little bit and you've got the Punk feud where, going into Full Gear 2021, you've got the culmination of Omega and Hangman and, this storyline that has been going on for years. And then somehow in just 3 weeks, Eddie Kingston somehow manages to out-promo CM Punk, and the two create a program that's like rivaling Omega and Hangman in terms of the amount of heat that it's getting. Like, I could go along like just recounting Eddie Kingston's stories, matches, and promos where I think he has absolutely exceeded everything. And I think historical importance, like Jack Perry, he is important somewhat to the company in terms of how he was a pillar early on, but like he was one of the 4 young guys that has that joined the company, but early on he was probably the weakest of the 4 in terms of his output and his what he was doing in the ring. I'd say he's probably since overtaken Guevara, but not by a long way. Eddie Kingston, though, I think he is important to the company because he, as you said, like he is the guy that no one else would push. Like WWE would have had this man hosting promo class in NXT, and NXT might have been better for it, but God, I'm glad that AEW gave this man a shot when he was ready to quit wrestling and rejuvenated this man's career. And I think that is actually important for AEW because he was one of the first people that they did that for. There's been other veterans that have come along that have been like, AEW restored me in wrestling. Later on we've found Dustin Rhodes has done that as well and gone along to have a career. But Eddie Kingston, I think he occupies an important part of AEW, and he also occupies an important part in terms of where he sits for the fan base, in that he is like a folk hero and like almost the heart of the company sort of person. So I think for me, it's very clear, particularly when you look at how Jack Perry's performances have gone with him as a singles wrestler, where it has not gone to plan. And as you said, like I like Jack Perry. I really like the cage match he had with Luchasaurus. I think that's really underrated. But, you know, this is a harsh game and we're eliminating people that we like. And I think that Eddie Kingston's performance, particularly as a singles wrestler, massively outstrips Jack Perry, even though Jack Perry is somewhat important as one of the original pillars and young people that was highlighted in the company.
I'm glad that I'm glad that I don't need to come up with anything because you voted him Eddie through already. Problem solved for him. Problem solved.
Okay, well, he's going up against Kenny Omega next round, so it's been a fun run. It's going to be a hard one to overcome. But let's continue on. We're into the second last of this round. We've got Bryan Danielson, the number 6 seed, against Jay White, the 27th seed. I think this one's pretty easy, guys. Danielson or Jay White. I think Danielson goes through. For me, I feel like Jay White still really has never quite found his place as a singles wrestler in AEW, and part of that is because he's had injury issues. Unfortunately for him, when he has looked like he's about to like establish a proper identity as a full AEW wrestler beyond, you know, him being Jay White from New Japan, but you know, he's up against Bryan Danielson. Like, this is a man who's done just about everything in AEW.
What a revelation Danielson has been as well. To say that he left WWE extremely well respected. He was one of the like more respected kind of talents in that company. And to say that he left, but in a way that he ended his AEW career as not just respected, but like respected as a dangerous wrestler, not just this, because there's always that vibe in WWE where even though he was pushed, they still kind of presented him as like, yeah, but he's a bit of a dweeb vegan. There was always that vibe to him. And like Planet Earth, Daniel Bryan was like absolute perfect kind of example of taking that and running with it because he's just so good. But in AEW, he was able to reestablish himself as a legitimate wrestler, like somebody where Bryan Danielson would come out and be like, oh shit, he's about to kick someone's head in. Like, like someone who's actually a dangerous person in the ring with. I thought, he ended in AEW like on a way higher position than he was going to in WWE, which feels mental to say given like what they did with him, like WrestleMania 30 and stuff. But for me, that's just how well booked Danielson was in AEW. He ended his career as such a legitimate wrestler, which I feel like that will mean more to him than being in a WrestleMania main event. So, it's good for him. But also, obviously he's going through.
Yep. Anything to add there, Floyd, particularly about Jay White as he is now out of the competition?
Guns up. He was the one. I'm glad he came to AEW, but when it was like AEW or WWE, and I was like, I think he's more of a WWE guy as far as his character and everything like that. But I have enjoyed the Bang Bang Gang and Bullet Club Gold. They were actually getting cheered when Jay White got hurt. So they had come away. I think there was a push there for a while that he could have got behind, but then he got hurt. So shit happens. But but I look forward to him coming back. I've always liked Jay White way more than everybody else has. So, but Bryan Danielson's the clear winner in this one.
Yep. Jay White is like a luxury. It's like having Okada is like the ultimate luxury, but I feel like Jay White is another luxury that, you know, AEW doesn't necessarily really need. But good to have. Very good to have, but doesn't necessarily need and hasn't. I don't think they've really found a place for him. If Collision was going to happen and was going to be less of just a CM Punk vehicle and more of like a sort of soft brand split sort of 1B show, I think that's where Jay White could have found his position. Unfortunately, that's not what Collision was and what it became. But yeah, hopefully he does. Like maybe when he comes back, with a main event scene that does need more people into it. He does have a win over Hangman. If he can get back soon enough, that's a place where he could go. But let's move along. Number 11. So Bryan Danielson moves through, and he will go up against number 11, Swerve Strickland, against seed number 22, Claudio Castagnoli. I was thinking today, guys. I was looking at the promo between Hangman and Samoa Joe, and I was just thinking, man, no one's held that belt better than Swerve Strickland. Floyd, am I crazy thinking that?
No. And the reason I say this, and this was going to be part of my argument, like, out of everybody in that company, he seems to be the only one that wants to be the guy. And what I mean by that is he's the one that's going out on the radio shows. He's the one that's going out on everything. I was like, last week, he was in Jacksonville for the football game and then the show. He's out hurt right now. He could have stayed home, but he's there. He's always representing AEW. And, how big he's gotten, his physical changes on it, his ability in the ring, how he's represented himself. A strong part of this goes to Hangman as far as his elevation. I do think Hangman's a big part of that. So, that'll come in one time.
Yep.
But the elevation of Swerve, like, he didn't just elevate like, oh, he elevated himself to carry himself like a main eventer and to carry himself because I've long said AEW needs a new general. And if you always ask me my vote, I'm like, dude, it's going to be Swerve because he wants it. He bleeds it. This is AEW. I mean, we could talk about the matches that he's had. We could talk about the Continental Classics. We can talk about the Hangman matches. We can talk about those matches all day. All day. And like I said, I'll probably save that for next round because it's a tougher opponent. But when you talk about, I feel like he is elevated. He has shown a young guy that carries himself very much like a guy that's been there before. And I think it has done a lot to just lift AEW.
I think what we're talking about here with Swerve versus Claudio is a TV main eventer against a true main eventer, like a really good TV main eventer. Claudio Castagnoli has had a lot of really good singles matches. And doesn't lose very often as well. He's like sneakily well pushed, but Swerve Strickland. Like there's so many. We could reel up the matches. We could reel up the main events that he's had. We will have to against Danielson. Yeah. That's going to be an interesting matchup next round. Anything to add about Claudio or Swerve? Maybe hold your fire with Swerve until the next round. But Claudio, anything to say about him?
I think the talk for Swerve is going to be very needed in the next round. Yes. That's going to be so different. Swerve versus Danielson, Jesus.
I get the vibe with the next round that we all kind of want Swerve to win, but we're like, how can we justify it? Anyway, but talk about Claudio before we before we bid him by.
Yeah, Claudio is one of the most consistent performers that AEW have got. It's just that it's at a, as you said, TV main event level, which, to be fair, AEW's TV main event level is a very high bar. Like, we're not talking your standard WWE 2.5 to 3 stars. Like, that's not what we're talking about here. Like, he's still like 4.5 star, 4 star of 8, like consistently great matches. I talked about it in the last episode, but the ECW Arena main event with Darby Allin, another great example. Just a really fun main event with Claudio. However, we are talking about Swerve, who is an absolute star. And it's what makes this so interesting, especially when we get to it next week, where we're talking about the way that he, Ospreay, and Hangman are currently positioned as like 3 really vital different feelings for why AEW feels as good as it does right now. And each one of them represents something different. Swerve is that important. Like he's, I don't want to get too spiritual, but there's literally an aura about this man and what he represents for AEW. This is me building my arguments against Danielson's like physical, obvious stuff. It's like, what about spiritual aura? Like, I need to come up with something. But yeah, swerve over Claudio easily.
Yeah, I do want to say something positive about Claudio. He's the guy that you want to clone and put him all through your roster because he's so important to a wrestling company, just period, being a wrestling company. He's a guy that can win anytime. He's a guy that can lose anytime. You could put him in a tag team. You can put him in a trio. You can literally, he's such a utility player. You can literally put him in any position in the company, and it's gonna matter. I really want to put him over because he's always been one of my favorites. It's just he plays his role so well that it's almost like you forget that he's there. And he's a huge statue of a man, so he's hard to forget. But you do forget that he's there because he's always so fucking consistent. He's the employee that works for 20 years and never gets a promotion, but he's always on time. His job's always done. He's always getting the highest marks on their performance review. He's that. But it is but he never wins Employee of the Month. You know what I mean? That's what Claudio is.
Well, he makes way for Swerve Strickland moving along. He is well liked and well respected, but he has to go. Unfortunately, it's funny. You were talking about TV main events, Imp, and I remember looking back on. We're so spoiled now, but I remember back in the old LOP forum days, I was doing this project which was like the best Raw match ever. And we were talking about Shawn Michaels versus Shelton Benjamin, which was a match that happened in 2006. And I feel like people were talking about it for years and years afterwards as this incredible TV match that we got to witness on Raw and free TV. How could they be so great to put on such an amazing match? And you look at literally any Dynamite card will have a match that's better than that thing. We're just so spoiled. And this was something that got talked about for years. And I feel like Claudio, we're blessed to have him, and we're spoiled by the fact that he is just there and he's putting out the level of performance that he does. And if it was 20 years ago, people would have been writing hagiographies about him, in terms of how good he was. So, but that's the last of our round 2 votes. We're going long tonight, guys, because we're moving into the Sweet 16. We have 8 more matchups to go, and it only is going to get more tough as we go. Guys, let's just catch our breath for a second, and then we will get going into the next round. I'll just run through what the matchups are going to be for the Sweet 16. First up, we're going to have Jon Moxley versus Samoa Joe, then Will Ospreay versus Cody Rhodes, MJF versus Christian Cage. Bust out the mimosas. We've got Chris Jericho and Orange Cassidy, Adam Page and Kyle Fletcher, Darby Allin and CM Punk, Kenny Omega and Eddie Kingston, and Bryan Danielson and Swerve Strickland. Let's get this first one done quickly. Jon Moxley versus Samoa Joe. Mox will advance the number 1 seed against Samoa Joe, a guy who sort of carries very much the same energy, but doesn't match up to Mox in terms of AEW output across the time they've been with the company. Any last things to say about Joe before we go along?
I just love that his name is this chant. That's awesome. I just think that's impressive in his greatness. Joe, that's it. That's his chant. But yeah, I mean, this is an obvious one, but shout out to Joe. I love him.
Indeed. Imp, anything to say about Joe before we move along to the next one?
I think we basically would be repeating what we said in the last round. Just his importance in very key moments in AEW's history cannot be understated. But obviously, Mox's importance is so high. It's good. This is going to get so difficult once we get to the next rounds. But at the moment, Mox is storming through.
Indeed. Let's move along. This is a much more difficult conversation. We've got the 8th seed Will Ospreay against the 9th seed Cody Rhodes. I'm unsure who to go first with on this one. We've got the Brit versus the American. We've got Imp versus Floyd. Floyd, I'll let you present your case first. I can feel if I don't let you, you're going to just yell over the top of me.
Okay. Well, thank you for allowing me to go first. And, of course, my vote is going to be for the original general. I said AEW has been missing a general. I've said it before, and that general was Cody Rhodes. Before I talk about putting on the first 5-star match ever in company history and putting on another 5-star match with Sammy Guevara, before I talk about any of that, making Malachi Black look amazing when he came in, getting Eddie Kingston and Ricky Stark signed, before I talk about any of that, we talk about the nature of being the general. The thing about the Elite is Kenny Omega is a very soft-spoken guy. You know, he just wants to get in there and wrestle. Shout out to the Young Bucks. They're kind of the same way. They want to meet their fans and do the autographs. And Hangman is Hangman. But you needed a voice. A voice. The original voice of the Elite. The voice of AEW. The man that took on Dave Meltzer's bet is the one, the only Cody Rhodes. The reason I'm talking about this, because I think he outweighs Will Ospreay so far in historical importance to AEW that even the amazing matches that Will Ospreay has put on doesn't even the race. On a scale of 1 to 10 when it comes to historical importance to AEW, Cody's a 13. This dude was the face. When people were talking about AEW, when I started this show, when I've done all this, they weren't saying Triple H versus Tony Khan. Dude, most people couldn't pick Tony Khan out of a fucking lineup. They were saying it's Triple H versus Cody. Who's Cody gonna sign? What Cody matches up? To the point where Cody's like, I gotta write myself out of the world title picture because everybody's just gonna assume that I gave myself a belt on the Jeff Jarrett tip. That's how much power people assumed this man had because that's how he carried himself. When everyone was showing up to places in gym suits and their wrestling shirts, Cody's in his suit every time. He's carried this company through being on NFL Game Day, to being hosting TV shows, to being a part of movies. He brought in freaking Stephen Amell. T-Pain was at a line. T-Pain was at a show. He had Rosario Dawson at a fucking wrestling show. Why? Because of Cody Rhodes. The power of Cody Rhodes. He, in this case, Will Ospreay, one of the best in-ring performers of our generation, if not the best in-ring performer of our generation. It's amazing. But Cody has put on enough great matches in AEW ring to close that gap enough where I can take his historical importance completely dominates. His promos completely dominate Will Ospreay. I'm talking about the first Como when he called Chris Jericho a carny son of a bitch, to the line where everybody say WWE can't counter program what we have. He rallied the troops. He sold out buildings without a match announced. He is the man. He is the myth. He is AEW Jesus. Cody Rhodes.
Oh my God. I knew you were going to give it everything, Floyd, but AEW Jesus was not something I saw coming.
Right.
Floyd,
combat.
Go ahead. Good luck.
How do I combat? He is AEW Jesus. That's quite a bar. It's quite a bar. I guess the question is, what is more important? The guy who set what the feeling is in those first few months of AEW and able to try to figure out what it is. Cody Rhodes as the biggest babyface in wrestling at that point in his feud with Jericho. He established what the feeling even is in those moments. Like because we thought we knew what we wanted, but we weren't entirely sure. Then he does his feud with Chris Jericho, and Cody Rhodes is doing those promos, getting all the crowd all hyped. And you look at it and go, that That is what we wanted. And you just feel so happy that this alternative is giving you exactly what you wanted. They're giving you that feeling that WWE wasn't even close to being able to serve you. So what's more important? The guy who even established what the feeling even is, or the guy who restored it? Like, it's such a in-depth conversation. I guess it might even fall down to like personal preference. Like, which to you is more important, the guy who laid down the road or the guy who continued building it? Like, it's both of them. For me, both of them are, I was going to say finalists, but we're going to have about 8 finalists in this tournament. How good everybody is. I think my heart says I side with my British man. My logic says it has to be Cody, just because it says where do I feel? Who's more important, the guy who established the feeling or the guy who restored it? I think to me, it's the guy who established it. So for me, I think I'm going Cody, which as soon as I'm saying it, like, but no, Matt, go Will. Like, no, I think I am going Cody. Not because of the AEW Jesus, like no. I do generally think, in terms of this specifically, what Cody did to establish that feeling in the first place is so important. With match, I said the Jericho stuff, but the match with Dustin as well was another part. It wasn't just like that brief month or so period of Jericho. It was also his match with Dustin, like showing them that this is what AEW is going to be was so important. And I'm not playing down Will Ospreay's importance, because for me, he is the guy who helped restore that feeling after the wobble. But yeah, I'm going to have to go with Cody.
Here's my question. Just before we lock in Cody, here's my question. Right. I completely agree that Cody Rhodes is at a 13 out of 10 for historical importance here, Floyd. Like, the logo of this show, this very show we are speaking on right now, has a cigar on it. That cigar is for Cody Rhodes, because Cody Rhodes used to smoke cigars before he sold out and went to the WWE. He left. He had a really, really terrible year of creative, and then where he refused to work with the uppercut, where he booked himself out of being in the main event because he knew he wasn't going to be champion. So he booked himself out of the main event, and then he had a terrible year of creative where he managed to get himself booed by the people who a year earlier or 18 months earlier were living and dying on every single word that he spoke of. The vibes around him was so bad that this same person who is so important to the history of the promotion and was so beloved at the start of it, people were saying, good riddance, we don't need you anymore, because the vibes was so bad around everything he was doing. Will Ospreay, on the other hand, he chose to come to AEW. He has performed at a level that is almost unmatched by anyone in this company every time that he came along, every time that he has gone into that ring. Like, whether it's TV, whether it's pay-per-view, whether it's tag team, like, you would struggle to find a time where he has wrestled where he hasn't been one of the top 4 performers on that card that night. And he has, in short order, managed to get the AEW faithful completely on side, and he has not lost them, and he has not had a terrible moment in creative the way that Cody just inexplicably decided to go downhill. And there's a lot going on backstage that, some of it's not his fault. There's, whoever the reason was he got fired, but not got fired. Sorry, I didn't say that. He decided to leave, but at the same time, this is the choices that he made. He chose to work with his mates in his own little world instead of working with the main event stars. He could have been a great challenger for Hangman Page, who wanted to, to establish Hangman Page as champion. There's so much backstory that he didn't do any of it. He didn't even, they didn't do anything with the dissolution of the Elite. And that, that's on that has to go on the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega and Hangman Adam Page. They bear some responsibility for that as well. But at the same time, they actually told that story. But for some reason, Cody wasn't in it. And the reason, what you can't blame the other guys for when they've continued to tell the story. Cody removed himself from that and created his own world. He created the Codyverse, and then he chose to leave. He went to the competition, and he made the competition super successful, which has harmed AEW. Now, I don't know if you can hold that against him in this instance, that particular part, but his terrible performance in his final year, where he got booed by those people that loved him, does not speak well for his performance in matches, stories, and promos. And I grant you, he had a great final match, but that was after a year of terrible performances where he got booed. And yeah, historical importance, obviously, that is Cody 100%. But I don't know. I think the performance is closer than we are talking about, particularly given how bad things were with Cody Rhodes.
Okay, I wanted
by the end.
I wanted you to let you get your point out to add my rebuts to this. His first match in AEW, 5 stars. His last match in AEW.
I agree.
Last match in AEW.
One of the most important matches in company history, 100%.
Last match in AEW, 5 stars. Darby's Allin.
No, not well remembered.
The Sammy Guevara ladder match was his last match. It is well remembered. Okay. All right.
Not as well as the first one.
Okay. And you want to talk about helping build the company. Darby Allin's first big match against a star. Draw with Cody Rhodes. 20-minute draw with Cody Rhodes. MJF's first win against a big star. Who was it? Cody Rhodes. Sammy Guevara, TNT title. Who put him over? Cody Rhodes. 3 of the 4 pillars he helped establish in that role by just being Cody. That dude was starting on his own, trying to build up the younger parts of the roster, the people that other people weren't working with yet. He was getting them ready for their spot. He wasn't dodging anybody. Greatest squash ever in AEW history. Cody getting squashed by Brody Lee. Come on, dude.
Where's the match with Mox? Where's the match with Hangman?
I mean,
where's the match with Omega? They're the money drawing matches. They're the big name matches. And for some reason, Cody Rhodes wasn't in the main event.
He did a match with Chris Jericho. Hey, put a bunch of people in Baltimore. Put over 10,000 in Baltimore. I know. I was there.
And for some reason, he said, if I lose this match, I'll never go go in the main event again.
He didn't want anyone thinking he was so selfish that he would put the world title on himself. That was the whole reason. It was even a selfless reason for doing that.
I mean, he was selfish enough in WWE that he said John Cena's, you've got to turn heel in your final year.
Well, hold on just a second. That's WWE. What are we talking about here?
No, I'm saying he was selfish enough there.
No, but he was selfless in AEW. He put everybody ahead of him in AEW. Everybody ahead of him. He even tried to get Anthony Ogogo work. As ill-advised and as big of a failure it was, he was trying to get someone else over. I'm not gonna whitewash it. I'm not gonna pretend that didn't suck. I was there when it sucked. It sucked. And he got booed. Because he was trying to appeal to an audience that didn't exist in AEW. Which, again, he kind of lost he had his finger on, at the beginning of AEW, he really did have his finger on what the AEW audience wanted. Somewhere in there between hey, I want you to be heel, I want you to do this, the elite stuff, he kind of lost it. And I thought that a go-go thing was like, hey, you don't get it. But then he came back around, and he made Sammy look good on his way out. They had whatever happened in the back end. I'm never going to pretend to know, because until somebody flat out fucking says something, I'm just going to say, hey, I don't know. But again, his weight as far as the history, all the different other people he tried to work with and make before leaving, he was very unselfish as a person in that company. But again, like I said, his historical weight is to me weighs heavier than what Will Ospreay has brought in ring, which is generational. This is not hate on Will Ospreay time. This is elevate Cody time.
You said originally, you said Cody. have I been able to... I know I'm talking to a soft target here because he's British. Think about the Wembley match with Chris Jericho. Think about the Wembley match with MJF. Like, he played a big part in those. I reckon he played a big part in selling out those stadiums, those Wembley stadiums. And he played a really big part in, as you said, like reestablishing what AEW was at a time when the chips were down. Like the post-MJF, Brochacho's Devil storyline, getting Will Ospreay back at that point was like a breath of fresh air into the company. And he was the one that, out of the three guys that turned up, he was the one that immediately hit like a line of cocaine in a toilet in a nightclub. Like that initial match with Takeshita and then straight into the program with Danielson. Like, man, what a way to introduce yourself. And I think that is historically important for what he did when he did it. And the performance, like you said, 5 stars. Cody started on 5 stars and ended on 5 stars. Will Ospreay's has been having matches that are better than 5 stars.
Yes.
Like the match with Danielson, the match with Kyle Fletcher. Like you talk about raising people up. Those guys you mentioned, Darby Allin, MJF, sure. Everyone knew MJF was going to be a star. Like that was ordained before he joined AEW. And Sammy Guevara, where's Sammy Guevara now? Sammy Guevara hasn't. The highest he ever got was the program with Miro, whereas Will Ospreay elevated Kyle Fletcher, who is going to be one of the most important wrestlers of the next generation in any promotion.
So you did with Cody and MJF what I did with Adam Cole and MJF. That's what you just did. I just wanted to point out that you basically used the same type of argument. MJF was going to make it.
You did the opposite.
MJF was going to make it anyway. Cody didn't do anything.
Look, that Lashes segment is generated. That Lashes segment is one of the best things that is still being done. Anyway,
yes, nobody. He got beat with a belt for this company.
It's what I was saying at the beginning. You've got the
deciding vote, mate.
So it's what I said at the beginning. What's more important to you? One of the guys who helped restore the feeling, or the person who even set what it was in the first place? And I feel like, are you actually voted? You've actually voted for Will Ospreay here, Sam?
Yes.
Yes, you have. I have said Cody Rhodes, and I think right now I will still say Cody Rhodes because his importance is still felt within the company as time goes on, and that feeling that Will Ospreay restored, he helps then continue that. I feel like that's when Ospreay, like the longer he stays in AEW and the more he's able to like help push them forward, along with the likes of Hangman with Swerve. It feels like it's the three of them for this current generation. They're the three that AEW are going to be really wanting to like push as their like 3 main faces and stars. But that's not happened yet. It's kind of like like the level of quality of matches is absolutely insane for Will Ospreay. He so consistently, as you were saying, not even talking 5 stars, like what would be a 5-star match, he's so above it. Like that match with Danielson, the second pay-per-view match he has in the company is their best match in the company history. like Jesus, like that is an incredible way to arrive. I still think, for me personally, the guy who set what that feeling even was in the first place for this bracket specifically takes Cody through. Yeah, even though his exit was just a bit like you're watching it, be like, this is just naff. Like it's just not good. But I feel like Cody is so important in those first years, and like the phrase wasn't, "Oh, we finally found the feeling." The phrase was, "We restored the feeling." Well, someone had to set what that even was in the first place, and that for me, one of the people's Cody. Yeah, so I'm voting for Cody.
Look, I'm happy Cody is going through. I'm not unhappy about this. It actually speaks to the fact we're having this discussion like this speaks to my seeding, which had Will Ospreay at 8 and Cody Rhodes at 9. So it's look, everything you guys said about Cody is correct. Definitely deserves to go through. Will Ospreay has been an absolute legend for AEW so far, and I wish him all the best in his recovery. Cannot wait to have him back in the company. AEW was very special with Cody Rhodes on screen back in 2019, and it was very special. It's been very special with MJF Will Ospreay on screen in 2024, 2025. So let's move along. We've got our next one. We say farewell to Will Ospreay, and we move on to our next one. We've got the Despicable Bastards bracket matchup here. MJF versus Christian Cage. There's probably an argument you could make here, but I'm guessing we've spoken a fair bit about Christian. We've spoken a fair bit about him. Well, we haven't spoken much about MJF because he's kind of cruised through.
We've kind of put him over in other people's conversations.
Correct. That's true. Yeah. I think this is going to be a 3-0 to MJF. Is it, guys?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, what Floyd said, pretty much.
Yeah.
If we're talking about him in other people's conversations so much, then surely he's an important character.
Let's move along. So we've put over Christian Cage as well. We say goodbye. We farewell him with Kazoo's Christian Cage, and MJF moves along to the quarterfinals. The 4th seed continues on, and we get up to Chris Jericho versus Orange Cassidy. This is going to be a tough one, I think. I'm going to let you go first. I'm not sure if you want to ride for your boy Orange Cassidy or at least put forward an argument for him beyond to go against Chris Jericho. This is going to be a tough one for him, though, I think.
Yes, it's weird because Chris Jericho's historical importance, again, he's somebody who, is he another person where his historical importance is over a 10? Just in terms of he was the legend name that helped establish AEW as something that somebody might tune into or might give a go. Someone who's drifted away from WWE might see what they're doing. Oh, Chris Jericho, I know him. Like, and he was the first ever champion. Like, that's huge. And that first year or 6 months. Oh no, I was going to say the first run until he passes the title over to Moxley. He helps set up AEW, helps establish them, and then gives over the title for when those other talents are ready to come in and really carry it. But then he's got all the amazing other stuff, like the whole of his faction game, the whole of the Inner Circle starting to get properly over. And then we get the first Stadium Stampede match. It's just like, oh, God, he is so incredibly important to the history of AEW. Obviously, it then got to a point where he outstayed his welcome. And that's the difference between him and Cassidy. You wanted more and more of Orange Cassidy. You wanted less and less of Chris Jericho. So where I stand right now, I feel really positive about Cassidy, and I don't want to see Jericho for a long time. But this is like an overall conversation, and that's why I feel like as Jericho's quality line went down, Orange Cassidy's just shot right up. So there is a moment where they cross over each other. And Orange Cassidy becomes, in the moment, more important to AEW than Jericho is. And I say that's where we are now as well. It's probably been the case for, when was the Orange Cassidy John Moxley feud? Was that 2 years ago?
2023, yeah, 2 years ago.
Yeah. So it's been 2 years where Orange Cassidy has been more important to the company than Jericho. Depends on how important do you see those first couple of years where Jericho is so incredibly important to them. I guess it depends how depends on what era of AEW you feel is more important to the company. I want to go with Cassidy. Sod it. I'll go with Cassidy. Rock 'em. Let's go Cassidy.
I can't go past Jericho. We said Cody's a 13 out of 10. I think Jericho's pretty much up there as well. If you listen to what Tony Khan said about his logic behind finding the behind thinking about a promotion. One of the key things was Chris Jericho versus Kenny Omega at the Tokyo Dome, which showed him that there was a large enough audience that was willing to pay for wrestling outside of WWE, and the amount that drew to New Japan World kind of showed him that there's people who are willing to pay for this wrestling outside of WWE on a very large scale. And there's obviously that, and him being that first, if Cody was 1A for the general, then Chris Jericho was 1B. Not to mention, kind of, this isn't almost an aside, but having so many people on his podcast to introduce them to, the fan base and introduce these people to the broader fan base, and that initial feud between between Cody and Jericho was incredible. Chris Jericho as champion, he was in such incredible form. Like every single week he was coming up with these new memorable lines, new memorable angles and skits, and the way he set up that title early on and the way he carried that title early on was some of the best work of his career that he has ever done. He never really got given the position in the WWE of being the number one dude in the promotion, and he kind of got given it in AEW, and he showed that he could hit that out of the park. He used every carny trick in the book that he knew to make that a success, and he made it a resounding success and established the title in like the level of prestige and everything that he needed to. I can't go past Chris Jericho in this instance, even though Orange Cassidy has been I think the best TV wrestler that AEW's had. He's had the most matches in the company. He's had the most wins in the company. His international title is one of the greatest title runs that has happened in the company. But when you're talking historical importance, I just cannot go past that initial thing for Chris Jericho. Floyd, have you got anything to add there? Are you voting Jericho, or you want to put something forward for Cassidy?
I become man. Yeah, it's got to be Chris Jericho. I mean, yeah.
Yep.
All the reasons you stated, I don't really have anything to add, but I do think the first really big crowd participation thing that had AEW was the Judas sing-along, where they would just cut off the music and the fans would keep singing. It was just such a star event. You knew you were at an AEW show, so that adds into the legend of Chris Jericho.
Mm. Yeah, I'll just add, I guess, with Orange Cassidy, as we will be, he'll be leaving the competition, that, he has been such an incredibly strong performer. For myself in 2023, he was a lifeline in the company when they were doing those ridiculous Brochachu skits that I hated. Being able to tune in and have an Orange Cassidy match every single week was something that was making me keep returning to the promotion when there were parts of it that I really didn't like. And of course that, that'll build up to that showdown with Jon Moxley at All Out in 2023, which was such a good match, such an underrated match that people don't talk about enough. I think because things didn't plan out quite the way after it that they could have with Orange Cassidy. And, once again, I think with the Death Rider stuff, things didn't pan out the way they could have for Orange Cassidy. He hasn't really been able to make that step up to be to go, as we talked about, from TV main eventer to rolled in gold, regular headliner of a pay-per-view. He hasn't been able to fully make that step up, sort of dipped his toe in and out a little bit. But has been just a fantastic, I guess, mascot for the company. Someone that sets apart AEW, and also one of the great litmus tests to see if someone who's talking about AEW, do they actually watch AEW or not? Do they actually engage with AEW or not? Because if someone talks about Orange Cassidy putting his hands in their pockets, you can immediately discount their opinion because they're not watching the company if they think that's all that Orange Cassidy does. He is one of the great modern-day baby faces, just in terms of the way he is able to bring people in with his selling, the way he sells, and the way he builds a match to his comeback. In Orange Cassidy, he's kind of your boy. Do you want to bid him the final farewell before we move along to the next matchup?
I'll give him the moniker of the actual greatest comedy wrestling. Said that weirdly, haven't I? The best comedy wrestler I think there ever was, and that's me. No slight on my Toro Yano, but Orange Cassidy, because he can actually go serious and actually get in behind you. He's the greatest comedy wrestler that wrestling's ever had. So it's no slight. He's getting knocked out now.
Okay, well, Chris Jericho moves along. We're halfway through the Sweet 16. We have 4 matchups to go, guys. Coming up next, we've got I think it'll be a quick one. I know, Floyd, you hate this man, Hangman Adam Page, up against Kyle Fletcher. You argued really hard to get Kyle Fletcher into this matchup. Are you going to keep arguing to see if he can get through to the quarters?
No, I feel like it's the story of this quarterfinal match is the same as the story at All Out. Kyle Fletcher is ready. He's just not ready yet. He's gonna pass Hangman. He's gonna pass Hangman. I'm willing to bet. I'm willing to bet several of my checks on it. He's gonna pass Hangman, just not yet.
Indeed. It's not a dissimilar. It's not a dissimilar sort of matchup from Will Ospreay and Cody. This one, funnily enough, it's kind of like they're almost their two proteges, sort of in a way, because Hangman was the one that sided with Cody back in the Bullet Club Civil War in 2018. So, Imp, anything to say about this matchup before we move along?
No, yeah, pretty much what Floyd said, where Kyle Fletcher feels like he's proving himself over and over that he is going to be at least a guy for AEW going forward. Or maybe not even that far away, but right now, Hangman Adam Page is the best and the main character in AEW. So, I feel, like, in my mind, I'm like, I don't know what we're going to do when we get to Hangman versus Moxley. But, like, right now, yeah, for me, easily Hangman Page, he is the most important character in the company right now. So, yeah.
All I'll say is in 10 years' time, there's going to be a great discussion as to who the greatest Australian wrestler of all time has been. Kyle Fletcher, Tony Storm, Rhea Ripley. We produce them pretty well down here. We've got some all right ones running around.
Not Bronson Reed?
Probably not Bronson. Unfortunately, not Robbie Eagles. I think it'll be Fletcher, Rhea, or Tony. One of those three, I think, will be who we're talking about.
The Rhea Ripley or Tony Storm conversation.
I want to throw the Iconics in there. Just throw them in there.
Not as the greatest of all time.
Oh yes, Iconic. It was obviously a joke.
Okay, moving along. We've got the number 7 seed Darby Allin against the number 10th seed CM Punk. I'm going to go straight out and say I think I have seeded this incorrectly. Am I going to have to pinch my nose? I'm leaning towards Punk. Just my initial take on this, I'm leaning towards Punk. Who wants to go first? Floyd, I know you said a few things about Punk earlier in last week's podcast, but what way are you leaning here?
I'm leaning towards Darby. Why? Because I believe Darby, historical as part of it, the baby Sting, his relationship with Sting, and how that has played out in AEW, and how that was like when you talk about the father-son relationships, it was the father-son relationship that didn't go bad. It started good. Sting said on his first night, he said he came for Darby. On his last night, they defend the tag team titles in probably one of, if not the greatest retirement match in wrestling history. And I do think that relationship with Darby is so important. But the fact is that man is willing to sacrifice any part of his body to put on the great match, getting thrown downstairs in Jacksonville, going through caskets. How many different, getting choked out by Brody King. How many moments can you specifically name in AEW that is Darby Allin? I'm going to say it's in the 20s or 30s. That's how important this man is to the company. He is the pillar that wasn't a pillar that was, because everybody knew when he was kind of thrown in there. Like, was he going to ever win the world title? Was he ever going to be considered a serious guy? His elevation. I thought, and this is personal. First time I saw Darby Allin, I was like, why? This is going to make AEW look minor league. Flat out. I'm going to call myself on my own bullshit. I said, this is going to make them look minor league. Having someone this small is never going to do it. The first Darby trick he did was turn me. And it was a 180. I went from like, oh my God, this dude is something I've never seen in professional wrestling before. And the amount of star power and everything that he's come through, his rivalries with MJF, where I'm going to beat you with the armbar, his beatings from Jon Moxley, he is completely sewn into the fabric of what is AEW. His historical level, at historical level, even though CM Punk burned very bright, he burned out too quickly. So you look at the longevity of Darby from being at the beginning to where he is now, where he can be put in the main event of every time. A lot of people were calling for him to be the one to beat Mox. His importance of his relationship with Sting, how it gave Sting his final farewell, but it actually gave you a successful mentor-mentee relationship in AEW, which had never happened. Everybody always turns, but not Darby and Sting. So a personal thing, he gave one of my youthful heroes an actual farewell, a farewell that was respectful of his career. That and everything else, and the huge negative that you got to think about when you say CM Punk, I'm moving Darby Allin off.
Okay. Here's my CM Punk thing. That's some nice... It's nice that Sting got the farewell he needed. It's nice that, Darby Allin's had some good TV matches. But this is a business. This is the wrestling business. And no single wrestler in AEW's history has moved business for the company like CM Punk. I think some of the things that they say around TV are a bit overblown in terms of the way that he brought up ratings, because they were kind of bringing up ratings before he had turned up. But they sold out the stadium, the arena in Chicago on a rumor without ever even mentioning CM Punk's name. They sold out that arena. They then parlayed that into the most successful pay-per-view that AEW has had to date in terms of pay-per-view buys, All Out. And while Darby Allin was facing CM Punk, that card was all about CM Punk's return. They then had Full Gear afterwards, which was another one of their most successful. It was their second most successful pay-per-view up to that date. And that, as much as it was about Hangman and Omega, it was also about CM Punk and Eddie Kingston. There has been no one that has moved business like CM Punk in AEW. No single performer that has had that level of impact business-wise on AEW. And Darby Allin, as good as he is, has not headlined and has not been that level of star that CM Punk was in AEW. There is a massive negative about CM Punk, do not get me wrong. But I think when you're looking at the history of AEW, he is one of the most important figures. And it's not just because of his business performance, which, as I said, is, we're talking Cody 13 out of 10 for his historical impact. CM Punk's probably like an 11 out of 10 for his business performance. His matches in AEW and his performance in promos and stories was amazing. So I've already mentioned that promo battle with Eddie Kingston and the match that they had, where within 3 weeks they had a feud that was as hot as a feud that had been built up for years and years and years to crown a new champion. And then they had a match at the pay-per-view, which was so different. A 12-minute sprint that still sits separate from everything else that has gone in this company, and sits alone as like an incredibly bold, creative decision to just have this 12-minute sprint, and that stands alone as one of like the best matches that they've had, particularly when you look at like matches that are under 15 minutes. Then he moved from that into the MJF feud, which is still one of the best feuds that has happened, particularly when you look at the promos and the way that they built their characters throughout it. At his peak in AEW, CM Punk was amazing. He was on he was doing some of his career best work at that time. I think of the TV that led up to the dog collar match, where you had it going from them having their match in Chicago, where CM Punk lost. Then he had to find another friend, and he got John Moxley out to be his friend, and they had an incredible match with FTR. Then the week after, he had the Be My Valentine promo. And then, of course, MJF had his amazing promo the week after. Then the third week in that streak of promos, MJF came out and revealed himself to be the devil, which was then parlayed into CM Punk saying, I'll become a monster, bloodied CM Punk saying, I'll become a monster to fight monsters. Just like an all-time program that those two had together. And it was driven by CM Punk operating at his peak and returning to wrestling in a way that I don't think anyone thought would be possible. It could have only happened in AEW, that return. And CM Punk, when he was there and when he was in a good mood, was creating some of his best work that he ever did. Beyond those things, you had a number of really good singles matches on TV against Dax Harwood in particular. There was one against Dustin Rhodes. It was particularly good. And then when he went into Collision, there was a number of multi-man matches and the program with Joe, which ended on his final match, which was a pretty decent match that kicked off that show, the Wembley show. I just think as good as Darby is and as much as he has been just an absolutely reliable trooper for the company, he has not been a star or business mover on the level that CM Punk was.
Oh, so it comes down to me.
And also, finally, and this is my last reason to vote for him. If we vote for him to go through, we get Adam Page versus CM Punk in the next round, and then we can give CM Punk the proper kick in the ass on the way out.
Okay, before you vote, Imp, let me throw in my points of view. Only one of these...
Kick him in the ass. Kick him in the ass next round.
Only one of these two people put a permanent black eye on AEW. Only one of these two people put a permanent black eye on AEW.
Yeah,
only one of these.
Going to tell you it was Darby Allin because he decided to climb Mount Everest, and now we've got Hangman Page as the champion. Permanent black eye can never be returned.
I can forgive that. What I cannot forgive is going into a press conference after you win the company's title and completely burying everyone in the company and not being part of a storyline. And then before the largest show in wrestling history, you unprovoked attack a man and then say you're not gonna wrestle.
You make some strong points, Floyd.
That has to weigh more than, because guess what? He took Chicago with him. AEW hasn't put more than 5,000 people in the stadium in Chicago since he fucking left. He killed the company. He killed the whole city. The negatives outweigh the positives. Everything he gave, he took back. Fuck this guy.
Imp.
So I'm either having to follow someone being AEW Jesus or just an absolute...
This is AEW Judas. Fuck it. I'm changing my vote to Darby Allin. This is the perfect time to kick him in the ass.
Yes, I was just going to say, for me, CM Punk is... he's not just a good TV show. He is an award-winning TV show. The first season gets everybody talking, as in this is quality television. It is one of some of the best stuff you have ever seen. And then season 2 is just kind of, it's just not as good. And there's a lower episode count. It's just clearly the writing's just not quite there. It's not, something's gone on behind the scenes. You can tell. It's just it's just not the same show. He put all of the thought into Squid Game season 1. So he's had years to work on this, and it's clearly paying off. I'm not saying Squid Game season 2 is bad, but it's not the season 1. CM Punk is, for me, he's that. that's what he is. And that second series is so bad it nearly tanks the network. That is that. How do people talk about Game of Thrones now? It's people are not glowing if you bring up Game of Thrones. But those first 4 seasons of Game of Thrones are still just as good as they were when they first aired. They are amazing television. No one gives a shit. No one talks about them positively. No one's going to rank Game of Thrones up there as one of the best TV shows because the final few seasons suck. And I feel like I have to talk about CM Punk in the exact same way. what people aren't talking about CM Punk in a positive way, the AEW, because of the way he went out. Just like Game of Thrones. So, just like Game of Thrones, season 8, he can get in the bin. Darby Allin goes through. But also, for me, Darby Allin is the consistent, slow burn TV show. It feels weird to compare Game of Thrones to Always Sunny in Philadelphia. However, Darby Allin gets better.
We're going to do it anyway.
Like, that show is one of the few shows where I could say you get to about season 7 or 8 and it becomes an all-time great show. It was good beforehand, but suddenly something happens and it clicks on another level. And I feel like Darby Allin's reached that point where, like, he's had 6 seasons of TV. Like, he's still doing good for himself. But now this program with Jon Moxley is finally establishing him as a possible main event staying level talent. Because beforehand he'd dip in and out. And he'd be entertaining. You still enjoy him, but he wasn't a staying main event guy. But what's happening right now is establishing him as that. Like, he's on his Sunny in Philly season 7 and 8. Like, he's there. It's happening to him. It's getting there right now. But yeah, I'm going to vote for Darby Allin. I think we might have gone 3-0 in the end.
Yes, we have. We have gone 3-0. I'm not sure if you could hear in the background, I was coughing. My body was rejecting me for putting forward. In all sincerity, I really enjoyed Punk's return.
Me too.
There was a reason that's what I focused on in my vote for him. But he is a man who came along when let me get my kicks in, Floyd. Okay? You got to have your moment.
Sorry.
I got to kick him in the ass. I spoke him up. I've got to whack him down. He's a man that came along and after the real risks had been taken, he felt like he was taking a big risk and he had no respect for the people who actually took the risk. The people like Cody Rhodes, like Kenny Omega, like the Young Bucks, who are the ones that are on the logo of the AEW Match Guide, who, like Chris Jericho even, like Jon Moxley, who truly put their reputations on the line to get AEW off the ground. He came along when the ratings were already on the way up. They were already selling out buildings. Somehow he gets credit for being this amazing business mover, which he did move a lot of business, but it's overstated what he did. And yeah, as you've all said, he nearly destroyed the whole promotion on his way out. So screw that guy. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. Darby Allin can go through. I'm happy with that. I only really wanted CM Punk to go in because I wanted to do this with Hangman Adam Page voting, but next week we'll get a nice Adam Page versus Darby Allin loving instead. See you later, CM Punk. Get in the bin.
That said,
or actually, even worse, go to WWE, a place you hate, sell out your soul, lose every shred of credibility you ever had, and go back on every single thing you once said that you stood for. CM Stadium Rock. I'm never calling you Punk again. Piss off. Go away, Phil Brooks. We don't like you here anymore.
I do still go back and watch his return though, because it's always good.
Dude,
that pop is insane.
All I was gonna say is I was at home. They made the rumor. I was supposed to go to Chicago, like, for All Out. I flew for one day to be there at that at Rampage at that show, and I damn near came to tears. And I was so happy CM Punk came back. My opinion on a person has never changed as much as it has from CM Punk to how I feel now, ever, with any human in existence.
It's one of the few times where AEW's crowd miking actually does capture the environment, because that was one of the things where I would show it to friends who don't care about wrestling. It's like, no, well, however loud you think this pop is going to be, however big it is going to be, it's like there's a second wave and it just hits you. Like, it's absolutely incredible. But also, fuck him.
Okay, I think we've talked about Phil Brooks enough. Let's move along. And let's, oh my God. Number 3, Kenny Omega versus Eddie Kingston with a tear in my eye. I'm going to have to vote for Kenny Omega in this one, guys. We mentioned him a few times in the most important people to have gone through AEW. I think this one's 3-0. Yes. My voice is giving out, so we may need to move along quickly.
Shout out to Eddie Kingston, though. Part of the heartbeat of the company. I truly believe that he's somebody that he is complete. He's almost AEW Sandman. He is gonna be that cult figure inside of AEW and forever.
I couldn't agree more. Love Eddie Kingston. Love having him back. Love that he's back. I watched a couple of the since doing this last week. As I said, I'd been a bit on hiatus. Dip my toe into some YouTube stuff. Love having Eddie Kingston back. Incredible to have him back. And some of the work he's done is just stellar. He doesn't get enough credit for how good he is in ring or on the mic, I don't think. I don't understand why some people don't like him just because he's got a bit of a tummy on him. Dusty Rhodes had a bit of a tummy on him. Lots of wrestlers in the past have had a bit of a tummy on him. We can look past that. This is wrestling. It's great. He's great at it. Look into his eyes. Don't look at his belly. Look into his eyes and you'll see the fire burn.
I guess that'd be like a superficial thing where if you look at his entire character overall, the presentation works. But if for some reason you're stuck on some superficial thing, which certainly does that, it happens to some people, like whatever, people like different stuff. But yeah, for me, Eddie Kingston is just such an amazing character. We'll finally get to talk about Kenny Omega in the next round. We've just put him through every time without saying anything. But next round, we promise. We'll actually talk about it.
Next week. We come to the final matchup of the night. We have the main event that was for All In 2023. Bryan Danielson, the number 6 seed, versus number 11, Swerve Strickland. Floyd, you spoke really highly of Swerve Strickland before. Imp, you spoke really highly of Bryan Danielson before. Imp, I'm going to give you the floor to make the first argument for whomever you want in this instance.
I was somebody who, for that All-In match, was so behind Swerve where I would have had him retain. I thought there's so much upside to keeping him as champion that I don't think I would have switched off of him, even though it's a much smoother trajectory to go from him to Danielson to Moxley. Everything works so much better when you do it that way. But I still think that because Danielson, as I was saying, he got to exit wrestling as a full-time guy, as such a legitimized wrestler to a point of one of the most respected men in the industry, just such a crazy level. While Swerve has become the soul of the company. And I really don't know which one I want to put through. I really don't. Because it cannot be understated the importance of that Bryan Danielson was. But the importance for the last year and a half that Swerve has been, also, it's so incredibly vital. Is it as boring as legitimately Danielson has been a bigger figure in the company for a longer period of time, therefore he just goes through because of that? Is it just as boring as an answer as that? As in, I want to put them both through. I don't want to choose between them. And Swerve is going to be important for them going forward. It's maybe one of those other arguments where we're saying if we're doing this in 5 years, then maybe Swerve does go through. But I think it's Danielson, and I think it's literally, for me, they are level for different reasons. They're both level in my mind. Neither one of them is more important than the other. It's just that one of them was important for like a year or two more, and that's literally it. It's almost like a flip of a coin decider.
Floyd.
I am.
So you're hold on, Imp. So you're nailing your flags. Your flag.
That's putting it strongly. It's like in my head flipping a coin. But yeah, I guess I'm going with Danielson. Even though long term, I feel like Swerve is going to be vitally important for AEW. But obviously, I'm talking about like in the future. So yeah.
Floyd.
Okay. So, it's just definitely close for me. Because, again, Bryan Danielson, generational in-ring performer. But I do think there is very much... the gap isn't as big as you would think on great matches, right? Because Swerve's had great matches with... He's had great matches with Hangman. He's had great matches with... He had a great match with Bryan Danielson. He had an amazing match with Will Ospreay. So Swerve is right there in matches. If you say Bryan Danielson's a 10, I wouldn't go far lower than 8 for Swerve, right? So when you're talking about, like, you look at promos and stuff like that, there's always the Bryan Danielson promo that basically told you what the Blackpool Combat Club / Death Riders were going to be. He's always amazing when he's fired up. Don't get me wrong. But I truly believe when it comes to weaving a story together, making you care about the people that you're wrestling against and making you not care about the people, I would give Swerve and his sinister style, his smooth style of promos, I would actually give him the edge in the promo area. Historical importance. Bryan Danielson will always be historically important because he was kind of the guy that decided CM Punk had to go. So I got to give him a point for that. But you got to remember, but if you're talking about the great tag teams in AEW, right? Because, when you're this close, you say, we can use this as a tiebreaker. Swerve in Our Glory, you got to put him on the list, right? You got to put Swerve in Our Glory on that list. Dude was never really a tag team wrestler. Gets with Keith Lee, and they make that shit work. The star power that he brings in as far as the hip-hop acts and things like that he brings in with that. His just ability to really draw people in. I think if you go all around, I will give the very slight edge, like 9.1 to 9. This is like, I don't really care who the tiebreaker is because I'm with it, but I'm going to give it to Swerve.
So I seeded these guys. I seeded Danielson 6 and I seeded Swerve 11th. And the reason I did that was if you go into Cage Match, and Cage Match is not infallible, but it's a good guide. In the top 10 matches that AEW has ever had, Bryan Danielson has been in 5 of them. His matches were, the consistency of his output of matches was amazing. However, one thing you said, Floyd, got me and nailed me and really was the thing that like has tweaked me and has flipped me on this. Stories. Danielson's stories have not been good. His matches have been incredible. I don't think he's had many good stories. He had a really good one to start with against Hangman Page. Since then, I'm really struggling to find a story, like a genuine story where he has performed flawlessly in it. In the way that Swerve, Hangman Page, that is, I think, the best story that AEW has ever told. The way that they went full circle with those guys from heel to face. Well, this is Swerve from heel to face, back to from heel to face, and then for Hangman Page from face to heel and back to face and triumphant champion. I don't think there's any stories better than the Hangman and Swerve story. And that includes Hangman Omega, that includes Punk MJF, that includes like Moxley Kingston, that includes Moxley Darby, like that includes Moxley Hangman is kind of part of that a little bit. I don't know, there's overlappingness anyway. But stories is what gets it to me. And when I look at, just as a microcosm, that match they had, because I think the match that these two had, for me, that's the best match AEW's ever had. That main event that they had at Wembley, that's the best match AEW's ever had. It's one of the best matches. I think it's one of the 2 best matches I've ever seen. That and the Tanahashi Ibushi match. Actually, I'm forgetting the tag match. I'm forgetting the Revolution tag match. So one of the 2 best matches AEW's ever had was Swerve and Danielson. And Danielson was an absolute force to be reckoned with in terms of the emotional way that he wrestled that match. But the build-up, he was pathetic. He undercut the match multiple times in the build-up. And it was only Swerve that held everything together in the build-up of that until the final promo battle where Danielson finally wrangled it all together and actually kind of talked about why he wanted to be champion instead of on podcast beforehand. He was talking about why he wanted to lose. And it's like, if you lose, you can't wrestle again. Like, it doesn't make sense. So for me, Danielson, all-time matches, but for overall package, I'm going to vote Swerve because of stories. And as I said as well, like the way he carries himself, Danielson never really nailed his character as a face or a heel. He kind of oscillated between the two, and that created, like, I think that's one of the reasons he never really had a super compelling story with anyone, was because his character dynamic oscillated too much and wasn't really clear enough. Whereas Swerve's, he nailed it, and he nailed his presentation. No one has ever looked better with the AEW title than Swerve has. So he gets my vote, and I think we'll get the upset over Danielson. Any final words? We're overruling you. Any final words before we push Swerve Strickland through?
There was no losing for you, Sam, because both me and Floyd were like, we're comparing a 9 to a 9.1.
Oh, yeah.
Both of them deserve to go through for their merits. So, absolutely fine with Swerve going through.
Excellent.
Like I was saying, I think I emotionally wanted Swerve to go through, and then logically I was like, does Danielson edge it? They were equal to me. So it really doesn't matter.
So Swerve Strickland moves through to the quarterfinals, and by gosh, that was fun. That was fun, guys. That was fun. I know we disagree, but I had fun.
Dude, the disagreeing was the best part.
Well, it's only going to get better from now because we're moving to the quarterfinals next week, and I'll run down who we have got in the quarterfinals. We've got first matchup, Jon Moxley versus Cody Rhodes. Oh my gosh, that's an interesting one. Next up, MJF versus Chris Jericho. There's a lot of storyline symmetry in that one. The 4th and the 5th seed, MJF versus Chris Jericho. Then in the next one, we've got Adam Page versus Darby Allin. And then the 4th match of the quarterfinals, Kenny Omega versus the 11th seed, the upset king, Swerve Strickland, who upset the 6th seed, Bryan Danielson. I think I probably seeded Swerve Strickland a little bit too low, guys. I'm guessing by that, but even by my own vote as well. So we did fare well some higher seeds. Bryan Danielson lost to Swerve Strickland, and Cody Rhodes beat Will Ospreay. So there was a few upsets in that round. Next week, we'll be moving forward. We'll be doing the quarterfinals, the semifinals, the finals, and also I thought we'd chuck a third playoff final in there as well, just to see who ends up third and who ends up fourth. Thank you very much, guys. Anything to say before we jump out of here tonight?
You can catch my show. Want to do plugs?
You haven't heard enough from us.
I'm doing Imp's AEW Adventures podcast, which I put out every Monday after I've got through all the editing, because I do like a 50-minute recording, but you get 30. But it's smooth. It's a smooth 30. That goes out every single Monday where I'll talk about Dynamite and then either Collision or the pay-per-view, whatever. So it depends when this is going out. Will then depend on where I am with that. So I won't really plug anything specific. That's what I would say. Also a shout out to the newsletter and that. But Sam will do an outro proper when we get to it.
I will indeed. Floyd?
This has been the time of my life. Just want to thank you both for, first of inviting me and then Imp joining in. I am loving his AEW show because, it's almost like, even though he's been watching, there's almost like a fresh eyes perspective. And then he has taught me how to sum up a couple of my thoughts a little quicker than I normally have. But I do like to thank both of you for letting me join you in this.
You're welcome, Floyd. Make sure you check out, of course, all things Elite on the Social Suplex Podcast Network and all of the other great shows we've got. We've got One Nation Radio, who also talk a lot of AEW, Trish and Sarah Wrestling Podcast, Tunnel Talk, Wrestle Art with Chris Things, and Keeping It Strong Style. Lots of great options here on the network. As I said at the start, I'll be posting these brackets on the Social Suplex Discord. That's the best place to go to chat about wrestling. Come to the AEW Match Guide thread. Let us know what you thought of our arguments today. Let us know who you thought got it right, who you thought got it wrong. can I get some of you to side with me on some of these things where I've been out-argued? Like, can some people jump in there and tell Imp and Floyd that they're wrong about Will Ospreay and Cody Rhodes, please? I'd really appreciate it if you could. But then these same people will probably flame me for my thoughts on CM Punk anyway. So, but it's all fair. Jump in there. You'll see the brackets in there. You'll see some great conversation to be had as well. And, of course, check out the other great shows and, of course, the Social Suplex newsletter as well, which comes out fortnightly. And if you want to support the network, you can do so financially through Red Circle. There's links to that in the description. And also you can buy Social Suplex merch for all of the shows on chopped-tees/Social Suplex. Links for all of that in the Discord, in the description. And if you can like and subscribe, if you've enjoyed the show today, we'd really appreciate it. Like, subscribe, rate, review, all those things. Press the bell button. All the lovely things that you know you can do to help out the promotion. Gosh, my brain is absolutely frazzled at the end of all this. Help out the network. Help us get the word out. We think we've got the best wrestling network. We think we have the best conversations, particularly if you're a fan of AEW. Help us get the word out to the people out there. Let them know that they can tune in and get this great audio to their podcasts as well. Thank you very much, Floyd. Thank you very much, Imp. Thank you very much for listening, and we will see you again next week. Thanks for listening to the AEW Match Guide podcast. If you enjoyed the show, then you can subscribe on the podcast app of your choice so you never miss an episode. Also, feel free to let me know on Twitter at @Sir_Samuel. I'd love to hear from you. The AEW Match Guide podcast is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network, where you can find many other fantastic podcasts discussing not just AEW, but all parts of the world of professional wrestling. Looking forward to seeing you again next week. I'm Sam Brown.